Chapter 2276. Su Fong landed heavily on the ground. He looked disheveled and severely injured, but in reality, he had activated his defenses the moment he was hit by the python puppet. The ancestral dragon armor and the defensive abilities of his perfected physical body neutralized most of the python's attack. He then borrowed the python's strength to fly toward the door of the side hall on the right. He had just landed. Swish! A puppet clad in heavy armor shot out flames from the gaps in its armor. It held a flaming greatsword with both hands, releasing a terrifying divine might of flames that enveloped Su Fong. The greatsword slashed down toward Su Fong's head with an aura that could split heaven and earth and incinerate everything in its path. Su Fong's divine light changed instantly, releasing the aura of the fruit of sin. The puppet in heavy armor paused. The greatsword in its hand and its terrifying aura also slowed down. However, it was only an instant later when the puppet swung its greatsword toward Su Fong again. The terrifying flames burned and melted everything around it. This attack was comparable to the full-force attack of a middle-rank Lord-level powerhouse. Given Su Fong's current ability, it was not difficult for him to deal with it. However, doing so would expose his true strength. I control destiny and control the heavenly secret. If I'm destroyed, everything will be destroyed. At this critical moment, Su Fong used the heavenly secret life contraction technique to sever destiny and conceal his aura. An invisible heavenly Tao power suddenly erupted from Su Fong's body, setting off a shocking shockwave that swept out. The puppet in heavy armor immediately lost its sense of Su Fong. Whoosh! Su Fong's figure swayed, and he unleashed the divine might of the Yin-Yang world, shattering the shackles. He used the teleportation ability of a Tao integration powerhouse and arrived at the door of the side hall on the right. He quickly disappeared from the side hall in a flash. The puppet in heavy armor could not help but be stunned when it lost its target. Flames shot out from its eyes and swept through the hall. It did not find any trace of Su Fong, so it took a step forward and charged toward the cultivators who were searching for treasures. It slashed a Tao integration third firmament powerhouse into two with its sword. Su Fong stepped into the side hall, and the heavenly secret life contraction technique's power disappeared. Whoosh! Swift and fierce airwaves attacked from both sides, shackling the Su Fong. It turned out that there were two stone puppets standing on both sides of the side hall, holding sky-piercer halberds in their hands. Su Fong's aura had just been exposed when it was immediately attacked fiercely. Although the two stone puppets were unable to unleash their divine powers, the simultaneous attacks of the two halberds formed a powerful combination attack that enveloped the entire Su Fong. This terrifying attack was definitely no weaker than the full-power attack of a mighty being at the ninth heaven of the Tao integration pinnacle stage. Pa pa pa! Su Fong used the greater giant diamond body, and his two arms immediately enlarged. Golden lightning flashed, and they immediately expanded, turning into giant palms. He reached out and grabbed the two halberd. Boom! Su Fong's body suddenly sank. His feet sank into the ground as hard as iron. The bones in his legs shattered, and cracks appeared on his enlarged arms. However, the two halberds were firmly grasped by Su Fong. The powerful attack was forcibly neutralized by Su Fong's divine power. Then, Su Fong let out a furious roar. He waved his arms vigorously, and the two stone puppets were thrown out like cannonballs. They fell to the ground and continuously slid backward. Ha! Su Fong's arms shook and the two halberds shot out. They accurately hit the two stone puppets, and their bodies were shattered into pieces. Su Fong's arms returned to their normal state. Then, he activated his blood energy and rapidly healed the injuries on his arms and legs. He took a closer look. The side hall was much smaller than the front hall. Apart from the two stone puppets, there was nothing dangerous about it. In the side hall there was a huge screen. In front of the screen was a throne and a table. On the throne, a man in green robes sat majestically. Su Fong was shocked. He sensed carefully and discovered that the man in green robes had no aura at all. His eyes were empty and lifeless. As it turned out, he was a corpse. Su Fang speculated that this man was probably one of the prison generals in the divine prison of Heaven's law. Looking at the corpse, he had been dead for less than 1,000,000 years. His cultivation base when he was alive was definitely a powerhouse. He was at least a middle-rank lord. Su Fang noticed that there was a brush pot on the table. There were 3 writing brushes of different colors in the brush pot. He could tell at a glance that they were no ordinary items. These 3 brush-like divine weapons and the corpse of that prison general are definitely supreme treasures. Su Fang was hale and hearty as he made a beeline for the table. Unexpectedly, a barrier blocked Su Fang's path in front of the table. Su Fang used his great perfection ability and sensed carefully for a while. He discovered that the barrier's defensive capabilities were extremely strong. Even if he transformed into blood, it would be difficult for him to pass through the gap. Therefore, he took out the sky-piercing rainbow shuttle. After activating it, it transformed into a golden rainbow, and the barrier shattered with a bang. He arrived in front of the table and unfurled a xian guang. He took the brush pot into his hand. Upon closer inspection, he saw that the 3 brushes were engraved with tadpole characters. From the meaning of the characters, Su Fang learned the names of the 3 brushes: Life Judgment Brush, Death Judgment Brush, and Prison Judgment Brush. As it turned out, these 3 brushes were divine weapons used in the front hall of the divine prison of Heaven's law to determine the life and death of powerhouses. The white brush was Life Judgment, the blood-red brush was Death Judgment, and the black brush was Prison Judgment. In terms of quality, these 3 brushes were all pseudo-creation divine weapons, second only to creation divine weapons. Su Fang had no time to carefully examine the powers of these 3 divine weapons. He put them all into his body. Then, Su Fang set his sights on the corpse. Although the corpse had lost its life essence, the divine body of an upper-rank lord-level powerhouse was extremely powerful. Other uses aside, it could at least be used to refine divine weapons. What particularly excited Su Fang was that there was a black token hanging from the corpse's waist. It was of a much higher grade than the tokens of the puppet prison guards he had encountered outside. If he integrated it, it would certainly be much more convenient inside the divine prison of Heaven's law. For the time being, Su Fang did not know whether he would be attacked by the puppets if he wore this token. However, he was certain that at least he would not be shackled in the divine prison of Heaven's law, and his abilities would no longer be suppressed. He made a grabbing motion in the air and grabbed the token. All of a sudden, Su Fang's expression changed slightly, and he turned to look at the entrance of the side hall. I really couldn't tell that such a powerful person like you was hiding among the wandering cultivators. You were able to escape from such powerful puppets and enter the side hall. Hand over all your treasures and I'll spare your life. Luo Xingtian appeared at the entrance of the side hall. He had used some unknown technique to escape from the front hall and come to the side hall on the right. Murderous intent surged in Su Fang's heart. However, after a second thought, he revealed a helpless expression and presented the token with both hands. You're Luo Xingtian, the young master of the ancient god world's Luo clan? Since young master Luo has taken a fancy to this treasure, then I'll give it to you. Luo Xingtian kept the token in his palm, still staring at Su Fang, and shouted domineeringly, "Humph, don't try to deceive me. Give me all the treasures you found in the side hall." Su Fang smiled embarrassedly. I risked my life to enter the side hall, and it wasn't easy for me to get a few treasures. Of course, they belong to me. Young Master Luo, aren't you being too overbearing by robbing me of my treasures? Luo Xingtian sneered disdainfully. Only treasures that can be kept alive are yours. If you get the treasures, can you keep your life? Immediately, a domineering luster flashed in his eyes. Treasures that I have taken a fancy to are mine. Besides, the whole divine prison of heaven and everything in it belongs to the Luo clan. If you don't want to die, you'd better hand it over obediently. Su Fang sensed that the blood qi in Luo Xingtian's body was surging, forming a miraculous fusion with the divine prison of heaven's law. At this moment, Luo Xingtian seemed to have become one with the divine prison of heaven's law, and he could easily control the power of the divine prison of heaven's law. The Luo clan is indeed related to the divine prison of heaven's law. No wonder Luo Xingtian dared to challenge me. It turns out that he can borrow the power of the Luo clan's bloodline to control the power of the divine prison of heaven's law. However, Luo Xingtian's cultivation level is only at the divine venerable realm now. The power that he can control the divine prison of heaven's law is very limited, and it won't exceed the Tao integration realm. Although it's easy to kill him, it will alarm the experts of Diyuan, Sanskrit, and the Ji people. Moreover, I can disguise myself and ask Luo Xingtian to help me find the prison-suppressing codex and the Heaven Supervisor token. Su Fang made up his mind. Then, he cupped his fists and said, "It's not impossible for me to hand over the treasures, but young Master Luo has to agree to my next condition." Luo Xingtian snorted. "A mere Tao integration first heaven cultivator and a lowly itinerant cultivator. You're not qualified to negotiate with me. Young Master Luo, it won't be too late to make a decision after you listen to my condition." Su Fang said respectfully, "I'm just an itinerant cultivator. I don't have any strong backing and am always bullied by others. Therefore, I'm willing to follow young Master Luo and work for you." "You want to be my subordinate?" Luo Xingtian was surprised and astonished. He sized up Su Fang a few times and did not suspect anything when he saw his down and out appearance. Su Fang hurriedly continued, "The Luo clan is a supreme god clan in the ancient god world, which is second only to the Emperor clan. Young Master Luo's talent is extraordinary, and in the future, you will definitely be a pinnacle expert in the myriad of worlds. Therefore, this one wishes to rely on young Master Luo's subordinates and seek a good future for myself." Hearing Su Fang's compliment, Luo Xingtian showed a complacent expression and looked at Su Fang disdainfully. "You're only at the first heaven of Tao integration stage. There are many people with such strength in my clan. What makes you qualified to be my subordinate? Although I'm only at the first heaven of Tao integration stage, I've mastered the wood element Great Tao and the poison element Great Tao. My strength is almost at the fourth heaven of Tao integration stage. I'm a level skipper," Su Fang said proudly. He secretly instructed Gue and activated his poison and wood element divine power, which burst out from the meridians of his right arm. Bang! The shocking combination of the divine power of the wood element Great Tao and poison was difficult for an ordinary third heaven of Tao integration stage to resist. Luo Xingtian's eyes flashed with a touch of surprise. He signaled Su Fang to withdraw his aura. "It seems that I've underestimated you. If I train you a little in the future, you'll be another powerful expert. Follow me in the Heaven Ruin Temple first. If your performance is outstanding, I'll naturally bestow you with good fortune." "Thank you, young Master Luo. I'll definitely be your slave." Su Fang was pleasantly surprised. He rolled out 3 writing brushes from his palm and released a xian guang to wrap them in before sending them to Luo Xingtian. Chapter 2277. Su Fang grabbed the token. Luo Xingtian said, "It's easy to fuse with the token. Use your blood to fuse your primordial spirit, consciousness, and spirit essence into the token." Su Fang did as he was told. His primordial spirit and the power of the yin-yang world seeped into the token and rushed into the formation of intertwined heavenly mark. As Luo Xingtian said, it was easy to fuse with the token. The moment he fused with the token, Su Fang felt that he had become much closer to the divine prison of heaven's law. The shackles and pressure of the divine prison of heaven's law were suddenly weakened by more than half. Coupled with the aura of the fruit of sin, the shackles of the divine prison of heaven's law did not affect Su Fang at all. On the contrary, it increased his strength. Su Fang was secretly shocked. If the token of a prison guard has such power, how amazing will the token of the prison general be? At this time, Luo Xingtian also fused with the token of the prison general. All of a sudden, Su Fang felt that there was an invisible connection between him and Luo Xingtian. Within the range of the divine prison of heaven's law, he had to listen to Luo Xingtian's orders and follow his will. His divine body was out of his control. After fusing with the token, although the shackles were weakened, his fate was controlled at the same time. It was like there was a string of fate connected to Su Fang, and Luo Xingtian was the person who held this string of fate. This connection was very subtle. If Su Fang had not cultivated the divine life shrinking technique and was very sensitive to fate, it would be difficult to detect the existence of this connection. In this way, as long as Luo Xingtian has a high-level token, he can control other people who have low-level tokens? What a terrifying divine prison of heaven's law, what a terrifying Luo clan! Su Fang was shocked. Only now did he understand Luo Xingtian's real trump card. No wonder Luo Xingtian had no intention of shackling Su Fang at all. It turned out that he had such means to control Su Fang. The cultivators who had fused with the jailer's token, including the hunchbacked expert from Sanskrit, Di Yuan, and the others, were all under his control. Fortunately, Su Fang used the punishment wood to devour the remaining skin of the cultivators and disguised his doppelganger to enter the divine prison of law. Otherwise, Luo Xingtian might really be able to use these trump cards to kill him in the divine prison of law. Let's go. Follow me to the depths of the heavenly ruin temple. As long as your performance can satisfy me, I will not be stingy with your rewards. Luo Xingtian revealed a domineering smile. Su Fang said, "Young Master Luo, this corpse is somewhat useful to me. I plan to use it to refine weapons. Why don't you give it to me as a reward? It seems that you are also used to living a poor life. You don't even let go of the corpse of a fallen prison general. This young master will reward it to you." Luo Xingtian waved his hand. Su Fang put the corpse into his storage ring. The screen at the back, as well as the throne and the table, were all made of extremely precious raw stones. They were absolutely priceless. Unfortunately, these things were integrated with the entire divine prison of law and could not be taken away. Su Fang could only give up. Just as he was about to leave, the hunchbacked expert from Sanskrit strode into the side hall. Di Yuan, Luoyang, and some of the experts from Sanskrit and the Ji people followed closely behind. Except for the hunchbacked expert, Di Yuan, and other powerful experts, almost everyone was injured and looked miserable. Although Di Yuan looked unscathed, exhaustion could be seen in his deep eyes. There were more than 100 experts who entered the main hall together. Except for Su Fang, the weakest among them was at the third heavenly stage of the Tao integration realm. At this time, there were only about 20 people who had entered the side hall. There must be some people who had entered the left side hall, but there would not be a lot of them. They had lost so many experts just by entering the side hall. It was obvious how dangerous the divine prison of law was. Young Master Xingtian is indeed skilled to be able to enter the side hall ahead of so many powerful puppets. It seems that all the treasures in the side hall have become young Master Xingtian's. After losing so many Sanskrit experts, who were all Sanskrit elites, the hunchbacked expert's expression was very ugly. His tone was also very unfriendly. Luo Xingtian chuckled. "That's right. Senior fan, are you planning to take the treasures from me?" "Young Master Xingtian, you must be joking. The Fan and Luo clans have a good relationship. As a senior, how can I take the treasures of a junior?" The hunchbacked expert snorted unhappily. Then he looked at Su Fang and his eyes became fierce. "Since you accepted the recruitment of the Sanskrit, you disobeyed my orders and fled before the battle. Die." As soon as he finished speaking, the hunchbacked expert's eyes surged with a terrifying heavenly image of destruction. A destructive aura instantly enveloped Su Fang and was about to kill Su Fang. Wait! Luo Xingtian suddenly shouted coldly. QL11 The hunchbacked expert of Sanskrit raised his eyebrows. What do you want, young Master Xingtian? Luo Xingtian smiled proudly. This person is just a lowly Tao integration realm itinerant cultivator. Killing him is no different from killing an ant. However, he has already surrendered to me and is my subordinate. Senior, if you kill him, won't I lose face? The hunchbacked expert snorted and ignored Su Fang. Fence-sitter. Snob. You gave him a bone and he became someone's dog. Shameless. The Sanskrit expert sneered and ridiculed Su Fang. Some people from the G people also laughed disdainfully. The hunchbacked expert led everyone to the back of the side hall. Luo Xingtian followed at a moderate pace, while Su Fang followed closely behind Luo Xingtian like an attendant. After walking out of the back door of the side hall, a long corridor appeared in front of them. The two sides of the corridor looked picturesque but contained fatal danger. There were powerful arrays everywhere. The flowers and trees on both sides were just illusions created by the arrays. Everyone moved forward cautiously. Even the hunchbacked expert of Sanskrit looked very serious and did not dare to be careless. Luo Xingtian, on the other hand, looked as if victory was in his hands. No one dared to fly. After walking for about 3 days, they finally walked through half of the corridor. Boom! Boom! Crash! A series of heavy footsteps came from the other end of the corridor. After a while, a tall figure appeared in front of them. It was a giant with a bull head and a human body. He was more than 5 feet tall and his muscles were as hard as rock. His eyes were cold and deep, without a trace of emotion. His body exuded a violent and ferocious killing aura. He dragged an iron chain as thick as a washbasin with one hand. One end of the iron chain dragged on the ground, making ear-piercing sounds as it rubbed against the ground. A string of sparks burst out. Shadows flashed in the sparks, struggling and wailing in pain. This iron chain seemed to be shackling countless vengeful spirits. A foreign tribe that has surpassed the ancient era, the bull-head barbarian. The hunchbacked expert's expression changed slightly. He was very afraid of the bull-head barbarian. How can such a powerful bull-head barbarian appear in the prisons of the universe? You go and check it out. The hunchbacked expert turned to look at a rogue cultivator that he had recruited. This person's cultivation was at the 5th heaven of the Tao integration realm. He could be considered a powerful heavenly monarch expert in any galaxy in the universe. In order to enter the Heaven Ruin Temple to search for treasures, this person had joined Sanskrit. He did not expect to be used as cannon fodder by the Sanskrit expert. Naturally, he was very unwilling. My lord, I am no match for this bullhead barbarian. My lord, please send someone else. Without waiting for this person to finish his words, the hunchbacked expert reached out and grabbed at the air. A divine power shackled him and then directly swept him towards the bullhead barbarian. Roar! The bullhead barbarian roared and waved his iron chain towards the 5th heaven of the Tao integration realm expert. This person had just broken free from the hunchbacked expert's shackles and was in mortal danger. He immediately unleashed all his strength and made a last-ditch effort. Unexpectedly, the iron chain wrapped around his body. Under the bullhead barbarian's attack, his divine power and defense were instantly shattered like paper. His body was firmly bound by the iron chain. The bullhead barbarian waved his hand and threw the iron chain behind him. The man's young spirit and blood were instantly devoured by the iron chain, leaving behind a shriveled corpse that fell to the ground and shattered into countless pieces. Although the bullhead barbarian's strength was only at the level of an ordinary king-god expert in the divine prison of law, his strength was comparable to an upper king-god with the help of a divine weapon. Even the hunchbacked expert from Sanskrit was no match for him. The Sanskrit expert raised his eyebrows and took out a seal. It was the palace guarding imperial jade seal that he had obtained from the front hall. He activated the palace guarding imperial jade seal and released a divine power that swept towards the bull-head barbarian. Unexpectedly, when the bull-head barbarian sensed the divine power of the palace guarding imperial jade seal, he suddenly accelerated and rushed towards them. This is bad. The palace guarding imperial jade seal is only effective against the front hall's puppets. It is useless against the bull-head barbarian. This bull-head barbarian is not someone we can fight against. Quickly retreat. The hunchbacked expert from Sanskrit exclaimed. He quickly put away the palace guarding imperial jade seal and retreated to the other end of the corridor. Diyuan and the other cultivators also retreated without hesitation. Luo Xingtian, however, did not move. He strode towards the bull-head barbarian. Luo Xingtian has the prison guarding general's token. This bull-head barbarian should not attack him. Although Su Fang knew that Luo Xingtian had a way to deal with the bull-head barbarian, he was still frightened. He felt a chill run down his spine. He had no choice but to follow Luo Xingtian closely. As they got closer and closer to the bull-head barbarian, Luo Xingtian activated the token and released a divine power that shrouded him and Su Fang. The bull-head barbarian growled a few times in a low voice and stopped. Luo Xingtian suddenly spoke in a mysterious language. When the bull-head barbarian heard it, he quickly knelt on one knee and lowered his huge head. Su Fang and Luo Xingtian swaggered past the bull-head barbarian. The terrifying bull-head barbarian did not have the slightest intention of attacking them. Su Fang was shocked again. I didn't expect Luo Xingtian to have such a method. It seems that I have to thank Luo Xingtian this time. Otherwise, with my strength, even if I killed this bull-head barbarian, my vitality would be greatly damaged. It would be difficult for me to enter the depths of the Temple of Heavenly Law, let alone get the prison guarding codex and the heaven supervising token. Chapter 2278. Su Fang looked grateful. Thank you, Master Luo. If it weren't for you, I would have been suppressed by the bull-headed barbarian, not to mention obtaining any good fortune. Then, he began to probe Luo Xingtian. What is the bull-headed barbarian? The bull-headed barbarian is a foreign race that surpassed the ancient times. At this time, they have long gone extinct in the universe. Only the Heaven Ruin Temple has this kind of bull-headed barbarian. They are shackled by the supreme experts of the Heaven Ruin Temple and are treated as prison generals of the Quick Temple. Master Luo knows a lot. You have broadened my horizons. I still don't understand. The bull-headed barbarian is so powerful that even the peerless experts of Sanskrit can't defeat him. Why is he so obedient when he sees Master Luo? Luo Xingtian was quite proud. What is Sanskrit? I have the prison guarding general's token of the front temple, and I also know the law of heaven, the oracle of the Heaven Ruin Temple. The bull-headed barbarian treats me as the prison guarding general. Although he is powerful, he is just a puppet. His status is not high, so he must be obedient. Su Fang sneered in his heart, but continued to flatter. Is the Luo clan related to the Heaven Ruin Temple? Of course, my supreme Luo clan. Luo Xingtian suddenly became alert. He snorted and said no more. As they spoke, the two walked out of the corridor. The majestic black main palace that exuded a solemn aura appeared in their line of sight. Luo Xingtian said, "The real treasure is in the main hall, but I can't get it with my current strength. Let's go to the Sin Garden to find a spiritual item first. After I merge with it, it won't be too late to go to the main hall." Su Fang asked worriedly, "What if the Sanskrit people or other geniuses of Yuan Tiangong get to the main hall first and take away the supreme treasure? What should we do?" "It's fine. Among the treasure-seeking cultivators who have entered the Heaven Destruction Shrine this time, other than the overgod from the Brahmin clan, only Diyuan can make me wary. There's also Su Fang who hasn't shown himself yet. But it doesn't matter. They can't enter the main hall in a short time. Even if they enter, they can only get some ordinary treasures. Even if they get the Real Supreme Treasure, it will be difficult for them to merge with it, and eventually it will belong to me. Luo Xingtian looked as if victory was within his grasp. No one knew where his confidence came from. Luo Xingtian's tea and walked to the right. They came across many barriers along the way. Su Fang used his powers at great perfection and sensed that if he wanted to forcefully smash through the barriers, even overgods would have to attack them for many years. It could be said that they would not be able to advance at all. However, Luo Xingtian activated the prison guardian general's token, and wherever he went, he was unimpeded. Naturally, Su Fang also took advantage of the situation and easily passed through. After passing through one of the barriers, a garden appeared in front of them. The garden was covered by the barriers, and it was difficult to see what was inside. However, Luo Xingtian didn't take the treasures in the main hall, but brought Su Fang to this garden. It was obvious that this garden was not simple. At the entrance of the garden there was a lush tree. It was 1,000 feet tall, and there were many fruits hanging on the branches. The fruits were only the size of a fist. They were of different colors and shapes, and they emitted a strange xian guang. They were surrounded by the aura of the way of heaven. Su Fang's eyes lit up. Prehistoric Dao fruit? No, this is not the prehistoric Dao fruit. It is similar to the prehistoric Dao fruit. It also contains the aura of the way of heaven, but it is much more powerful than the prehistoric Dao fruit. Luo Xingtian's divine light shone brightly. The mutated tree of Dao. This is it, Sin Garden. Tree of Dao? Su Fang knew what a tree of Dao was. In order to nurture the younger generation of geniuses, some of the cultivation forces and clans in the universe used their own cultivation to condense Dao seed. They were constantly watered by the aura of the way of heaven, and eventually grew into a tree of Dao and a Dao fruit. The tree of Dao was very similar to the prehistoric Dao tree. However, one was cultivated by a deity, while the other was naturally formed during the prehistoric era. Their effects were similar. A deity could increase the quality of their godhead by consuming a Dao fruit, while a mortal could quickly become a deity after consuming a Dao fruit. The tree of Dao in front of them was obviously different from the tree of Dao and the prehistoric Dao tree that Su Fang knew of. The aura of the way of heaven it emitted was not only extremely pure and majestic, but it was also 100 or 10,000 times more profound than the ordinary Dao fruit or prehistoric Dao fruit. Seeing that Su Fang's attention was on the tree of Dao, Luo Xingtian snorted. You were born lowly and ignorant. Naturally, you don't know about this tree of Dao. Su Fang said respectfully, Please enlighten me, young Master Luo. This tree of Dao was originally a very ordinary tree of Dao. However, because its roots absorbed the aura of the soil in the Garden of Sin, the Dao fruit it formed became a supreme spiritual item. These Dao fruits not only can increase the quality of the Godhead and allow a mortal to become a deity, they can also extend one's lifespan. On top of that, they also have the ability to change one's cultivation talent. As long as one is not an idiot, one can become a powerhouse after consuming a Dao fruit. Luo Xingtian's words made Su Fang's eyes shine brightly. His father, Su Yaotian, Xian Yin Tian and the other relatives and subordinates who came from the great world to the divine realm were limited by their age and talent. At most, they could only become deities in the future. It would be difficult for them to achieve much in their cultivation. With these Dao fruits, wouldn't all the problems be solved? Although this tree of Dao is extraordinary, it's still nothing much. The real treasure is inside the Garden of Sin. Luo Xingtian looked deep into the garden, his eyes filled with greed. Su Fang asked, Young Master Luo, what is the Garden of Sin? What kind of treasure is there? The Heaven Ruin Temple sealed some heinous criminals in the garden and used a forbidden technique to cultivate their blood qi, primordial spirit and other things into various spiritual items. This is the Garden of Sin. The Heaven Ruin Temple is suppressing the supreme powerhouses of all the realms. Deities, big goblin, demons and some other evil beings are not qualified to be imprisoned in the divine prison. Think about it, how powerful would the spiritual items they grow be? Luo Xingtian showed off proudly. Su Fang felt a chill run down his spine. This is too evil. Evil. Luo Xingtian snorted. The heavenly Tao is merciless. These sealed powerhouses, be it human cultivators, demons, big goblin or evil cultivators, which one of them isn't guilty of heinous crimes? Planting them into spiritual items is compensation to the heavenly Tao. How is this evil? Luo Xingtian's tone was extremely cold. Stay outside and pick some fruit of Tao for me. Although these things aren't very useful to me, they can be exchanged for a lot of merit points in the Yuan Tiangong. This tree of Tao is very special. Cultivators can only pick fruits that belong to the same Tao as the Godhead. You cultivate the Tao of wood and poison. Help me pick fruit of Tao of these two attributes. Luo Xingtian instructed Su Fang. Young Master Luo entered the Garden of Sin alone. Don't you need my help? Although my strength is average, I can help young Master Luo. Su Fang's goal was not only the fruit of Tao but also the spiritual items in the Garden of Sin. Luo Xingtian thought for a moment and nodded. The Garden of Sin is very dangerous. I have the Prison General token and I have the Supreme Bloodline, so the Garden of Sin isn't much of a threat to me. Since you want to help me, after you pick some fruit of Tao, you can enter the Garden of Sin to search for spiritual items. Su Fang was surprised and happy. Thank you, young Master Luo. Luo Xingtian's eyes focused and said coldly, remember, your prison guard token can only search for spiritual items in the outer area of the Garden of Sin. If you enter the inner area of the Garden of Sin, you will die. Also, you can only pick one type of spiritual item. If you are greedy and take more, you will die. Su Fang asked in surprise, why is that? Luo Xingtian scolded, idiot, how do you think the Garden of Sin got its name? The Garden of Sin is a place that punishes those experts who have committed serious crimes. Greed is a great sin. If one dares to be greedy and take away the spiritual items in the Sin Garden, it is equivalent to committing a great sin. One can only wait to be suppressed by the Heaven Ruin Temple. I see. Then isn't it a pity, young Master Luo? Su Fang was secretly glad. If he didn't know this, he would have plundered all the treasures in the Garden of Sin. The consequences would be unimaginable. Humph, there are treasures everywhere in the Garden of Sin. However, I can only get one. How can I not be greedy? However, there is a supreme spiritual item that my Luo clan's ancestor planted a long time ago in the Garden of Sin. Once I merge with that spiritual item, all the treasures will belong to me. Luo Xingtian revealed a domineering smile and strode towards the Garden of Sin. He activated the prison guard token at the entrance and formed a protective divine aura. He passed through the array and disappeared. Looking at the place where Luo Xingtian disappeared, Su Fang chuckled. Luo Xingtian, I don't know how to thank you. Why don't I let you die a quick death to repay you? Then, Su Fang projected the divine aura of the yin-yang world from his inner world to the outside and covered the entire tree of Tao. Su Fang had a primal chaos divine lattice and an inner world that contained all the great Taos in the universe. How could he be restricted? Whoosh, whoosh. Waves of divine might wrapped around the Tao planting fruits and pulled them off the branches. They were then absorbed into Su Fang's inner world and sealed away. In less than 10 breaths of time, all the Tao fruits on the tree were harvested by Su Fang. We're rich. Just these Tao trees alone are enough to make us rich. Luo Xingtian, oh Luo Xingtian, if you know that you've helped us so much, you'll be so angry that you'll vomit blood and die, right? Su Fang counted and found that there were more than 2,000 fruits of Tao in total. This was enough to allow his father Su Fang, Xian Yintian, Li Haojie, the Lord of 5 Poisons, and all of the people closest to him to transform into gods and change their cultivation paths completely. I wonder what other treasures I can find in Plant Sin Garden. Su Fang's heart was filled with anticipation. Chapter 2279. Su Fang activated the jailer's token, and at the same time, activated the Sin Fruit's aura, easily entering the Sin Garden's barrier. Looking over, the world was gloomy, making people feel extremely oppressed. Although he had the jailer's token and the Sin Fruit's ability, Su Fang still felt an astonishing shackle. His strength was suppressed to half. The space was barren, it was completely different from what Su Fang imagined, a scene of treasures and spiritual items everywhere. In the world, the natural spirit qi was extremely thin, it was filled with a kind of evil aura and baleful aura. Su Fang flew forward, all he saw was a barren desert. He couldn't sense any signs of life. About 3 days later, finally, he saw a large tree on the ground, its bare branches reached towards the sky. From afar, it looked like a withered hand that wanted to tear the space apart. Su Fang used his great perfection ability to sense the tree. He was shocked to find that the tree contained a vast amount of life force and boundless wood-type essence. It didn't look like a withered tree at all. Bang! The tree's branches suddenly attacked Su Fang. It instantly crossed the distance. Like a demonic hand, it wanted to grab Su Fang. Su Fang was scared witless. At this time, the jailer's token in his body automatically exploded with a divine aura. The divine aura wasn't very strong, but the tree was very afraid. It quickly shrank back. Su Fang's figure flashed, quickly arriving in front of the tree. The tree was obviously very afraid of the jailer's token's divine aura. It was so scared that it kept trembling. Su Fang used his great perfection ability to sense carefully. He found that this tree was very strange. It had its own consciousness, but it was definitely not a tree demon. It didn't have any demonic qi, it had life force. At the same time, it had a very high-level wood-type essence, and it also contained the aura of the wood-type Grand Tao. This should be an expert that cultivated the wood-type Grand Tao. After being shackled, he used a supreme forbidden technique to plant this tree. From the blood qi and wood-type Grand Tao aura, this person was at least an area lord when he was alive. Su Fang speculated. He left the tree and flew straight into the depths of the Sin Garden. Along the way, Su Fang encountered many powerful and strange beings. There were mountains that could run, flowers that looked like human faces, clouds that were constantly changing their forms, and even a lake that could emit laughter. Even though these spirit treasures were very strange, all of them had one thing in common, and that was that they contained boundless natural essence of the heavens and the earth, vital blood, and profound ultimate profundities of the heaven Tao. These spirit creatures of different shapes and sizes were all cultivated by the powerful beings sealed in the divine prison of heaven's law using restrictive spells. To Tao integration stage immortals, any spirit creature was a supreme cultivation divine object and was comparable to an ordinary spirit creature of creation. However, Su Fang was a little disdainful. Ordinary Tao integration stage spirit items were not very helpful to his cultivation. If it wasn't for the restriction in the Sin Botany Garden, where they could only take one Fey, Su Fang naturally wouldn't let go of any of them. There are so many heaven and earth spiritual treasures, but I can only take one. This is too torturous. Su Fang really couldn't make a decision, and could only look on enviously. Since I've come to the Sin Garden and can only choose one, then I have to choose the best one. It would be best if it could help me form the 72nd Yang Meridian. Su Fang settled down and continued to project his great perfection stage power, searching everywhere in the Sin Garden for a suitable spirit creature. Unknowingly, Su Fang went deep into the Sin Garden. He encountered more and more spirit creatures, and they were getting stronger and stronger. Su Fang's Warden token had already lost its deterrent effect. Fortunately, he had the Sin Fruit. The aura he released to those spirit creatures was even more deterrent than the Warden token, making those extremely strange spirit creatures feel abnormally fearful. Otherwise, even if Su Fang wasn't devoured by those spirit creatures, he would have to go through many fierce battles. About 3 years. Su Fang had already entered the deepest part of the Sin Garden. Su Fang continued to release his sensing power, not daring to give up at all. That spirit flower's aura is almost at the peak of Lord level. Heavens, that black stone is actually a peak Lord level expert, a demon god refined by the divine prison of law's forbidden technique. It actually still has the aura of life and demon chi. The spirit creatures here became denser and denser. They were all cultivated by the Lord level experts, suppressed by the divine prison of law using forbidden technique. Some were even at the peak of Lord level. The sin fruit had already lost its effect. Su Fang was shocked and had no choice but to be careful. How could he be careless? There were so many spirit creatures and treasures everywhere, but none of them were not fatal. If he was careless, he might even lose his life here. Further ahead, a huge sunflower more than 60 meters tall appeared in Su Fang's sight. This sunflower was really a little too shocking. It looked like a towering tree, emitting a shocking pure yang aura, like a divine sun. This sunflower contains such a shocking pure yang aura. If I devour it, I'll definitely be able to develop a yang meridian. This is it. This incomparably mystical sunflower made Su Fang's eyes incomparably hale and hearty. As a result, Su Fang carefully flew toward the sunflower. Unexpectedly, when he was still more than 100 miles away from the sunflower, a human face suddenly condensed on the flower disk of the sunflower. The stem also quickly transformed into a human body. How dare a puny prison guard enter this place? Kid, become my fertilizer. Your body's vitality is very majestic, and it even has an aura that I like. Come here. The sunflower's face revealed a sinister smile. Suddenly, rays of sun-like Xian Guang bloomed, as if a blazing sun had risen into the sky. Su Fang instantly fell into a world of burning flames. The sunflower's strength was comparable to that of a peak Lord-level expert. It was only one step away from the peak of venerable sovereigns. It was too shocking. The world released by the sunflower rapidly contracted, rapidly sucking Su Fang toward the huge flower disc. The face on the flower disc bared its sharp teeth, about to swallow Su Fang. You want to devour my Su Fang? Not so easy. Su Fang did not hesitate to use the yin-yang transformation, a terrifying divine aura that could turn all things in the world into primal chaos erupted with a loud bang. Such remarkable power! A horrified expression suddenly appeared on the sunflower monster's face. Su Fang's current yin-yang transformation could kill middle-rank lords, but it could not threaten this sunflower. Su Fang had originally planned to use the yin-yang transformation to break the sunflower's shackles by surprise, then take out the origin holy mirror to absorb it. If there was no other way, he could only use his final trump card and join forces with Shu Wanjin to use the yin-yang transformation and activate the origin holy mirror to suppress this monster. If even this could not deal with the sunflower monster, then Su Fang could only be considered unlucky. QL11 Unexpectedly, the sunflower monster seemed to have a vague impression of Su Fang's handprint and instinctively felt a sense of fear. What was particularly shocking was that as the yin-yang transformation was used, the power within the entire Sin Garden's inner world was drawn in by the yin-yang transformation. It felt as if Su Fang had become the supreme ruler of Sin Garden at that moment. A strange and incredibly powerful heavenly Tao order power surged between heaven and earth, gathering towards Su Fang. The sunflower monster's world collapsed with a loud bang. Su Fang was shocked and stunned. The yin-yang transformation can actually control Sin Garden's heavenly Tao power. Moreover, it's not just any heavenly Tao power, but a power of order that maintains the operation of heavenly Tao. How can this be? Su Fang vaguely understood. The divine prison of heaven and earth came from the celestial worthy mountain. The heavenly Tao power in Sin Garden was a power of heavenly Tao order. The supreme handprint of the yin-yang transformation came from the origin's sacred mirror. The origin sacred mirror was definitely connected to the celestial worthy mountain in countless ways, so it made sense that the yin-yang transformation could control heavenly Tao order. Just as Su Fang was stunned, the sunflower monster's face rapidly vanished into the flower disk before withering rapidly. It produced over 1,000 dark golden sunflower seeds, which fell to the ground and immediately vanished. The sunflower had been reduced to ashes, dispersing with the wind. It's actually fled? How can a monster that's equivalent to a peak overgod flee without a fight? Su Fang was completely stunned. He was forced to use the handprint he had formed. Shocking power of order enveloped the region where the sunflower was before erupting with the might of the yin-yang transformation that reversed the heavenly Tao and returned everything to the origin of the heavenly Tao. All the matter and presence within 100 kilometers collapsed under the boundless might of the yin-yang transformation. They rapidly gathered before Su Fang as chaotic qi. Swoosh, 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 swoosh. Around a dozen dark golden sunflower seeds flew towards Su Fang uncontrollably. They struggled wildly in an attempt to break free from the restraints of the yin-yang transformation. Where do you think you're going? With a flip of his right hand, the origin sacred mirror appeared in Su Fang's hand. As he was worried about being exposed, it had been a very long time since he had last used the ancient mirror. However, Su Fang could use it fearlessly in the Sin Garden. As Su Fang's cultivation rapidly increased, he was about to reach the 8th transformation of the 9-yang transformation as well. It became extremely easy for him to use the origin sacred mirror now. He raised the mirror to face the sunflower seeds, and scarlet light immediately enveloped them. Sizzle! 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 The sunflower seeds turned into over a dozen dark golden xian guang. They were sucked into the mysterious space by the mirror without putting up any resistance at all. What a pity! There were over 1,000 sunflower seeds, but I only obtained a dozen or so. That's only 1/100th of the sunflower's essence. It might not even be enough to condense a yang meridian. Su Fang put away the origin sacred mirror as he felt a sense of regret. However, the dozen or so dark golden sunflower seeds each contained an astonishing pure yang aura. Even if they couldn't reach the 8th transformation of the yang meridian, they would definitely be extremely useful for cultivating the 9-yang transformation. I only obtained 1/100th of the sunflower monster. I should be able to obtain another spiritual item. Furthermore, after using the yin-yang transformation, I can control the Sin Garden's heavenly Tao powers. Even if I take a few more treasures, the Sin Garden shouldn't send down any heavenly punishment. Chapter 2280. Su Fang wiped his sweat and found a desolate place. He carefully sensed that there was no danger in the surroundings. Then, he activated the heaven-concealing star flag to cover an area of 5,000 kilometers, isolating himself from the outside world. Although using the yin-yang transformation this time did not consume as much energy as before, it still consumed nearly half of the yin-yang world's power. There were dangers everywhere in Sin Botany Garden. He had to maintain peak condition at all times. Otherwise, he might die here. That would not be worth it. He formed a barrier around him, and then prepared to create a time array formation. However, in the shackles of the world, the time array formation could not be successfully formed. Su Fang could only give up. He created a spell altar. Then, Su Fang formed a hand seal. His body collapsed and turned into a pool of blood. A blood-colored sky quickly formed in the sky. In the heaven underworld state, Su Fang began to wantonly consume creation holy pills and yin-yang true extreme pills to quickly recover his strength. About 100 years later, the energy consumed by Su Fang's heaven and earth Tao palace gradually recovered to its normal state. 100 years was just the blink of an eye for a Tao integration realm cultivator. It was not a long time. However, for Su Fang, who had astonishing recovery abilities, it was already long enough. The main reason was the shackles of Sin Botany Garden, which slowed down his recovery speed. It's time to consume the sunflower monster's seeds to break through the yang meridian. Su Fang took out the origin holy mirror and injected his yang energy into the scarlet mirror. A scarlet xian guang shot out from the mirror, enveloping a total of 17 dark golden sunflower seed. Although he was not confident of successfully forming the 72nd yang meridian, Su Fang was still filled with anticipation and a little nervous. He released the power of the yin-yang world and wrapped it around a sunflower seed. Who would have thought that the sunflower seed would release a force that resisted Su Fang with all its might? Every sunflower seed was merged with the origin holy mirror's domineering aura. However, they still had their own consciousness and rejected Su Fang. You've been fused with my supreme treasure, and you still want to resist me? Su Fang coldly shouted and forcibly pulled the sunflower seed out of the Xian Guang. Then, a burst of 9 yang divine fire enveloped the sunflower seed and started to burn. Almost a month passed. Contrary to Su Fang's expectations, the outer shell of the flower seed was incomparably hard. Even with the tyrannical 9 yang divine flame, it was actually unable to refine it. After a month of burning, the outer shell did not show any signs of melting. A voice transmitted from the sunflower seed. A puny Tao integration stage cultivator like you dares to try and refine me? You'd better let me go obediently. Otherwise, when my true body comes, you won't be able to keep your life. You're just a monster, yet you dare to call yourself Lord? Su Fang couldn't help but find it funny. You should have been a peerless expert when you were alive. Why were you suppressed by the divine prison of law and turned into a monster in this sin garden? I am. Who am I? Why can't I remember anything? Who are you? Why are you able to perform that supreme seal? Have you seen the Dharma seal I used before? I can't remember. I can't remember anything. No matter who you are, with your puny strength, don't even think about devouring me. Su Fangdao was disappointed. He thought that he could learn more about the origin of the yin-yang transformation. However, he was now certain that the yin-yang transformation and the origin sacred mirror were definitely from the celestial worthy mountain. As for why it was split into two and ended up in the myriad worlds and small worlds, Su Fang had no way of knowing. With my current strength, it's indeed difficult for me to devour you. However, you forgot about my supreme divine weapon. Su Fang revealed a domineering smile. He activated the origin sacred mirror and once again stored all the flower seeds into the divine weapon's internal space. Then, Su Fang peeled off a sun spirit and entered the ancient mirror's space. The mysterious crimson space was no longer as mysterious to Su Fang as before. Moreover, he had already integrated a small part of the array formation. He shackled the dozen or so sunflower seeds in the array inside the ancient mirror. Then, the Yang spirit activated the array with the power of Yang, releasing the true fire of the 9 suns, which enveloped the dozen or so sunflower seeds and burned crazily. At this time, Su Fang had already understood that the 9 Yang true fire was not only a kind of supreme flame, but also a kind of extreme Yang heavenly Tao power. There was no flame that could surpass the 9 Yang true fire. In just half an hour, the outer shells of the sunflower seeds began to melt. The origin sacred mirror's aura seeped into the seeds. At the same time, Su Fang's sun spirit also activated the charm god soul assimilation seal and began to devour the remnant consciousness inside the sunflower seed. Damn it! How can a mere Tao integration cultivator have such an amazing divine weapon? It's even better than any creation divine weapon I've ever seen. Under the dual attack of the 9 Yang true fire and the charm god soul assimilation seal, the sunflower seeds quickly melted into a drop of dark golden liquid. Then, they quickly vaporized and finally turned into nothingness. They turned into a scorching dark golden flame. This was no ordinary flame. It was formed from the essence of pure Yang and contained an astonishing amount of Yang power. The remnant consciousness of the essence spirit was also mercilessly devoured by Su Fang. QL 11-inch, inside the primordial sacred mirror, how big of a wave can you stir up? Su Fang took out a ball of flame from the origin sacred mirror. Then, he merged it with the power of the Yin-Yang world and absorbed it into the heaven and earth Tao Palace. What Su Fang didn't expect was that before the world tree and the Yang meridian could absorb it, the divine sun above the heaven and earth Tao Palace suddenly trembled violently and erupted with a suction force. With a whoosh, the flame was sucked over. The flames in the divine sun surged and quickly merged with the flame. That divine sun was formed when the supreme existence of the imperial people stripped a small part of the power of the Shaoyang divine sun and injected it into Su Fang's heaven and earth Tao Palace. Unexpectedly, it would take the initiative to absorb the pure yang essence of the sunflower monster. After devouring the ball of flame, the size of the divine sun didn't change, but the power of the sun it released became even more vast. Su Fang activated the Yang meridian and the world tree, and the heaven and earth Tao Palace immediately transformed into the state of the inner world. The power of the sun contained the ability to nurture all things in the world. The light of the divine sun enveloped the inner world, causing the entire universe to undergo a miraculous change. Su Fang could clearly sense that the growth of life in his inner world began to accelerate. Even the natal divine artifact that was being nurtured in his inner world began to transform at a faster rate. With the power of the sun, my inner world will no longer be a patch of darkness. It will give birth to life and take a step closer to the true inner world. Su Fang was enlightened. Next, Su Fang gave 2 of the remaining 10-odd balls of flame to the dragonbird and absorbed the rest into the heaven and earth Tao Palace. After the divine sun absorbed the pure yang essence in the flames, the power of the sun it released became even more astonishing, causing the entire heaven and earth Tao Palace to change. The world tree and the yang meridian were also absorbing the pure yang essence, causing Su Fang's heaven and earth Tao Palace to become even more profound, and the power of the yang became even more majestic. Qi. When the last ball of flame was absorbed by the world tree, a shocking flame suddenly erupted from Su Fang's body. Su Fang was surprised and delighted. This flame was the tribulation fire that he had been waiting for a long time. Therefore, he began to control the power of his entire body to attack his physical body. After a few major circulations, the tribulation fire burned even more fiercely and enveloped him. It burned wildly as if it wanted to completely melt him. At the same time, Su Fang also activated the 9 Yang divine fire and the illusory fire cloud. His entire body was in a state of burning. The flames were truly astonishing, covering an area of 1,000 feet. The power of the flames spread for nearly 100 miles. If it weren't for the sky concealing star flag, who knew how much trouble it would cause if the aura leaked out? The impurities in the placenta continued to surge out of his body, and an astonishing impact erupted from his body, sweeping inside and outside. After a long time, the tribulation fire slowly disappeared. He controlled the power of advancement and began to attack his physical body. He sensed that the flesh membrane, barrier, divine aperture, and the interior of the heaven and earth Tao Palace were all condensing the 5th heaven mark. 5th heaven of the Tao integration realm. The power of advancement gradually dissipated. His meridians, flesh, blood, and yang spirit were all transforming. When everything calmed down, Su Fang had also completed this advancement. He had successfully advanced by a small step and stepped into the 5th heaven of the Tao integration realm. This advancement, apart from the sunflower monster's seed, was mainly due to the long period of consolidation and accumulation in the Temple of Sages. It was a matter of course for him to advance. A Tao integration realm true god was already considered a peerless powerhouse in the universe. Moreover, Su Fang's strength far surpassed that of true gods of the same level. Now that he had advanced by a step, it meant that he was one step closer to the peak of cultivation. I'll stabilize my state first. Then, I'll try to find the fortuitous encounter that will give birth to the 72nd yang meridian. Su Fong continued to settle down and swallow pills to recover the emptiness caused by the advancement. Just as Su Fong was advancing, more than a dozen figures appeared outside Zui Sin Garden. The person in the lead was a young man with thick eyebrows and big eyes. His cultivation was only at the level of a high-level supreme god. However, his eyes were extremely deep and occasionally, a strange blood-red light would flash through them. The dozen or so experts following him were all dressed like the Ji people. They seemed to be following him. Zui Sin Garden. Looking at the entrance of Zui Sin Garden, the young man's eyes were hale and hearty and the blood-red light flashed rapidly. Yuan Fu, the Dao-planting tree you spoke of is indeed here, but why is it empty? Where are the Dao-planting fruits? A middle-aged man of the Ji people beside the young man looked at the empty tree and asked the young man in a deep voice. This man was ugly and had a lion's nose and a wide mouth. His voice was like the beating of a drum, causing the surrounding space to tremble slightly. The weaker Ji people even felt their blood boil. The young man named Yuan Fu swept the tree of Tao with his divine light. Strange. There should be many fruits of Tao on this tree of Tao. Why is there not a single one now? Chapter 2281. That young man called Yuan Fu was actually an expert from the devil dimension. Ji Shishing, who do you think you are? How dare you speak to this seat in such a tone? Yuan Fu snorted coldly. An evil and ruthless demonic aura rushed out of his body and swept towards the ugly Ji people. The Ji people expert called Ji Shishing's divine aura instantly changed. A vibrating sound erupted from his body, like the rumbling of war drums, forming a miraculous and powerful sound wave attack in the surroundings. Boom! Yuan Fu's demonic aura collapsed, and his body swayed. Ji Shishing retreated 3 steps, his face instantly turning pale. It was obvious that he was at a disadvantage. The surrounding Ji clan experts, as well as the Devil Dao experts who disguised themselves as Ji clansmen, were all shaken to the ground. Some of the weaker ones even spat out blood from their mouth. The demon expert Yuan Fu and the Ji people's expert Ji Shishing were both Lord-level experts, but Yuan Fu was stronger than Ji Shishing. Ji Shishing, remember your identity. Also, don't forget, if it wasn't for this seat, your Ji people wouldn't be able to take half a step into the divine prison of law. Yuan Fu's voice was filled with a strong demonic aura, filling the space in front of Sin Botany Garden with an evil aura. Ji Shishing snorted. My race is currently working with the demon race, risking our race's extinction. The fruit of Tao you promised is nowhere to be seen. How can this seat not be anxious? Yuan Fu frowned. All the Dao-planting fruits on the Dao-planting tree have disappeared. Judging by the traces, they must have been taken not long ago. Someone must have gotten there first. It's most likely that kid from the Luo clan. Then he continued, compared to the spiritual items in Sin Botany Garden, the fruit of Tao is nothing. Once we enter Sin Botany Garden, this seat will help you obtain the supreme spiritual items. Naturally, this seat can make up for it. Ji Shishing said worriedly, we won't stay in Sin Botany Garden for too long, right? If by any chance Su Fong enters the main hall first and obtains the supreme treasure of the divine prison of law, then the gains will not make up for the losses. After all, your Devil Dao and my Ji people's goal of entering the divine prison of law this time is to kill Su Fong besides searching for treasures. When we entered the front hall, Su Fong did not appear. What are you worried about? Looks like the Ji people are also scared out of their wits by Su Fong. She's just a rising genius. It's easy for you to say. If Su Fong could be killed so easily, your demon race and the forces established by the resurrected powerhouses wouldn't have put him on the second assassination list. This child has all sorts of divine abilities. I suspect that he has long since disguised himself and snuck into the divine prison of law. Yuan Fu laughed sinisterly and said, Diyuan, Su Feng. Devouring these two geniuses of the human race is definitely an extremely joyous matter. Kakik then, Yuan Fu and Ji Shixing led more than a dozen experts into the Sin Garden. Looking at Yuan Fu's appearance, it seemed that he was very familiar with the Sin Garden and the divine prison of law's interior. It was indeed very strange. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. After waiting for the experts of the Devil Dao and the Ji people to enter the Sin Garden, Diyuan appeared in front of the garden about 3 months later. Diyuan's white robe was still as white as snow without a speck of dust. It emitted a sacred and supreme aura that perfectly blended with the world of the divine prison of law. He was indeed worthy of being a supreme imperial people. Even in the divine prison of law, he could still control the aura of the divine prison of law. Sin Garden? It won't be too late to go to the main hall after taking the treasures in the Sin Garden. Diyuan revealed a smile and stepped into the Sin Garden. In the depths of the Sin Garden, in a dark and cold area, Luo Xingtian had created a powerful barrier with array flags, isolating the outside world from the outside world. In the center of the formation, Luo Xingtian sat cross-legged on the ground and formed a mysterious seal. Vitality and blood qi constantly gushed out from his body. In front of him, there was a tree that was about 10 feet tall. This tree wasn't very tall, but it emitted a deep and vast aura. It felt as if a mere tree could hold up the starry sky of the universe. The tree was filled with fruit. Each fruit emitted a dazzling starlight, just like the stars in the starry sky. Among them, there were 28 fruits that were especially bright. They were distributed in the 4 directions of the north, south, east, and west. They were arranged in a strange constellation. They were the azure dragon, white tiger, vermilion bird, and black tortoise. The 4 symbols constellation represented the supreme heavenly Tao. This tree could actually manifest the supreme heavenly Tao. It was very extraordinary. The blood qi released by Luo Xingtian was continuously absorbed by the tree. The star-like fruits on the tree became brighter and brighter. At the same time, Luo Xingtian's aura became denser in the aura of the entire tree. When my supreme Luo clan's ancestor was guarding the divine prison of law, he constantly cultivated the tree of stars with the great Tao of stars. I didn't expect that it would help my Luo Xingtian. When I fuse with the tree of stars, I will have supreme talent and finally step onto the peak of the universe. I might even surpass heaven and earth like my ancestor. When I get the prison suppressing codex and the heaven supervisor token, Su Feng, Diyuan, all of you will be trampled by my Luo Xingtian. The entire universe will belong to my Luo Xingtian. Luo Xingtian's face turned pale due to the loss of too much blood qi. His body trembled, and his aura became sluggish bit by bit. However, his face was filled with a smug smile. A supreme domineering aura of supremacy appeared spontaneously at this moment. Huff Su Feng let out a long breath. Counting with his fingers, more than 50 years had passed. Such a short period of time was not enough for him to reach the normal state of the 5th heaven of Tao integration stage. However, he had finally stabilized his cultivation base. There are treasures everywhere in Plant Sin Garden. It's time to search for treasures. Su Feng put away the sky-concealing star flag and walked out of the array formation. He projected his perfected ability. He sensed a shocking wave of wood elemental essence and vitality in the southeast. It also contained a mysterious dragon aura. Soon, he arrived above a valley. When he focused his gaze, he saw a forest in the valley. There was a tree almost 10,000 feet tall with luxuriant foliage. Its vitality, wood elemental essence, and dragon aura permeated the entire valley. Even the surrounding soil, rocks, and plants were tainted by this aura. They were growing extraordinarily and astonishingly. He sensed it carefully again. He discovered that this tree was actually a divine dragon with a cultivation base comparable to middle-rank lord. It was a spiritual object transformed by a heavenly rule palace powerhouse using a forbidden secret skill. If it were a spiritual object like the sunflower monster, Su Fong would have to consider carefully. However, he had no reason to hesitate now that he was facing a spiritual object with middle-rank lord-level cultivation. Su Fong immediately took out the Chaos Origin Holy Mirror and raised it to face the Quasi-Valley. He activated the 9 Yang power within him and entered the Chaos Origin Holy Mirror. Swish! A red glow instantly enveloped the entire valley, including the spiritual tree that the divine dragon had transformed into. Roar! 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 The tree shook violently, letting out a series of furious roars that resembled a divine dragon. Its branches swept wildly, razing the surrounding forest to the ground. Even the surrounding mountain peaks were instantly shattered. The tree rapidly turned into an illusory state, consolidating into a gigantic green dragon that was 10,000 feet long. Its tail swayed, releasing a divine might that shook heaven and earth. It charged out of the Chaos Origin Holy Mirror's area of effect. How can I let a treasure that's right in front of me escape? Su Fong projected divine might from within his body. It rapidly transformed from an illusory state into a real world, enveloping the gigantic green dragon within. Boom! 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 Su Fong's world shackles could not hold out for more than 5 breaths under the gigantic green dragon's attack before they shattered with a loud bang. However, it was also at this moment that Su Fong activated the Chaos Origin Holy Mirror. An even more shocking red glow erupted and engulfed the gigantic dragon with a whoosh. He was instantly sucked in, and his body rapidly shrank. Finally, he turned into a green Xian Guang and burrowed into the mirror. Another spiritual item in my hands. QL11 Su Fong was overjoyed. Then, he felt the world tree and Yang Meridian become empty. The world that was projected to the outside of his divine body was broken. Then, he activated the Chaos Origin Holy Mirror to absorb spiritual items that were equivalent to middle-rank lord. Suddenly, dark clouds rolled in the sky of Botany Garden's inner world. Terrifying calamity power brewed in the dark clouds. Bolts of lightning darted around in the dark clouds. An intense and cold heavenly Tao order power enveloped every corner of the world. All the spiritual items in Botany Garden trembled under this supreme power. It was as if doomsday was coming. Buzz, buzz, buzz. Su Fong's divine apertures, heavenly secret life, shrinking technique, Tao runes, and heavenly expansion, mysterious Jezhen runes, were constantly flashing rapidly. They were warning Su Fong that a destructive danger was coming. Luo Xingtian was right. I can only take one treasure. If I take it, I'll be suppressed. It was impossible for Su Fong not to be afraid. His body was trembling. He waved his hand and a flying sword with a faint purple aura flew out. After activating it, it turned into 2 sword gleams, one black and one white. Mysterious purple aura lingered around him and circled around him. This flying sword was a superior-grade Dharma treasure that Su Fong had refined during the Yuan Tiangong Weapon Tripod Selection Festival. Although it was only superior grade, Su Fong had infused a wisp of purple aura Dharma spirit into this flying sword. He had also imbued the Yin-Yang transformation seal. Therefore, it combined the purple aura Dharma spirit and the supreme power of the Yin-Yang change. This power enveloped Su Fong. The heavenly Tao order power in the sky seemed to have sensed it. The thunder dissipated and the dark clouds quickly disappeared. The power of the yin-yang change has indeed stopped Botany Garden from punishing me. Haha, I'm rich. I'm rich now. Originally, he could only take one treasure. Now it meant that he could take more. How could Su Fong not be surprised and delighted? He stopped in the valley to recover his strength. Then, he continued to search for treasures. Deep in Botany Garden. Poof! Luo Xingtian, who was fusing with the Tree of Stars, was affected by the turbulence in Botany Garden. His connection with the Tree of Stars was suddenly cut off. Luo Xingtian had already consumed a lot of energy. At this moment, he could not bear it any more. He spat out a mouthful of blood and smashed a large hole in the ground. Chapter 2282. Luo Xingtian's integration with the Tree of Stars was interrupted, so he had no choice but to swallow pills to replenish his vitality. He would continue the integration after he had recovered a little. As for Su Fang, Luo Xingtian thought that he was dead for sure, so he did not take him to heart. In the valley, Su Fang found a cave, created a formation, and sat down cross-legged in the cave. Although the treasures in Botany Garden are good, it's not that easy to get them. I took too much of a risk just now. My greed almost attracted Botany Garden's heavenly punishment power. Su Fang felt a lingering fear. He then swallowed creation pills and began to recover his previous consumption. He was prepared to return to peak condition before integrating with the spiritual being that had transformed from the divine dragon. The spiritual being was clearly a divine dragon with abilities comparable to middle-rank lords. It had been shackled, refined, and sealed in Botany Garden by the supreme powerhouses of the divine prison of heaven's law using supreme restrictive spells. It felt like the entire Botany Garden was a vegetable garden filled with all sorts of vegetables that could be retrieved when needed. He transformed into his heaven underworld state and swallowed pills continuously. At the same time, Su Fang consolidated his physical body in the middle of the bloody water. He grabbed a Xian Guang from the Origin Holy Mirror. The shadow of a divine dragon was shackled inside the Xian Guang. It was in a wonderful state between reality and nothingness. It exuded a majestic life aura and dragon aura, as well as a mysterious aura that only the Origin Holy Mirror possessed. What a pity! A middle-rank lord powerhouse was suppressed by the divine prison of heaven's law and ended up like this. Su Fang was filled with emotion. He had a deeper understanding of the heavenly Tao's ruthlessness and cruelty. He then slowly released the yin-yang world power, which seeped into the Xian Guang and into the divine dragon shadow. He stripped the life aura and dragon aura from it bit by bit and absorbed them into his physical body. At the same time, he let the Tree of World absorb the dragon aura. Extremely pure dragon aura seeped into his entire body and the bloody water around him. It was not just dragon aura but also terrifying life energy. He sensed that his perfection-level physical body and various abilities were in the process of self-improvement and transformation, especially his dragon-slaying true body. Su Fang's body, as well as his blood, was burning with the flame of life. Then, the flame of life circulated in his body, causing his body to grow stronger and stronger. The energy he had consumed was also rapidly recovering. This was only a small part of the fusion. The divine dragon's shadow in the Xian Guang had only become slightly fainter. If he could devour them all, how shocking would that be? About 10 years. I've fully recovered from the exhaustion in my body. I need to leave this place as soon as possible and search for the opportunity to successfully form 72 yang veins. Besides, this place is not very safe. Su Fang suddenly opened his mouth and sucked in the surrounding blood water and blood dome. He returned to his original form and left the cave in a flash. Appearing on the ridge on the right side of the valley, Su Fang used his sensing power and the heavenly secret life shrinking technique to project it into the depths of Sin Botany Garden. Suddenly it was not the aura of a deity, but rather a demonic aura. It was faintly discernible, and if one did not have the ability of a great perfection saint, it would be impossible to sense the existence of this aura. To think that I would encounter a demon expert. It's that demon expert who is hiding among the G people. He has also entered Sin Botany Garden. Su Fang's divine light changed instantly. Judging from the aura, the strength of this demon expert was about the same as that of a middle-rank lord god like Xing Wuji. Moreover, the strength of a demon expert was much stronger than that of a deity of the same level. This demon expert was not someone that Su Fang could deal with at the moment. Just as he was about to leave quietly, a demonic light suddenly flashed in front of him. A dark shadow rapidly condensed from nothingness. A mere Tao integration first firmament cultivator actually has such astonishing sensing power. Since you have seen me, then stay here obediently. An extremely young voice came from the illusory figure, and then the illusory figure quickly became real. In Sin Botany Garden, this demon expert is not shackled and can use such a remarkable ability. Su Fong felt a chill seeping out of his body. He was shocked. Lord-level powerhouses could ignore the shackles of heaven and earth and the obstruction of space. Their bodies could transform from a corporeal state to an illusory state, projecting their sensing power to places that were endless distances away. However, this was Sin Botany Garden. It was definitely not an ordinary shackle. Instead, it was a shackle formed by a type of supreme heavenly Tao order power. Even a sovereign powerhouse would be restrained here. This demon expert clearly possessed some powerful remarkable ability or some hidden technique that allowed him to ignore the world's shackles of Sin Botany Garden. Wherever his mind went, his demonic body would follow. In an instant, a monstrous demonic aura blotted out the sky, enveloping Su Fong and his surroundings. He felt like he was currently in a demonic realm. His entire body was shackled, and the blood qi in his body was flowing wildly. There was also an evil intent that was constantly destroying his mind and Taoist heart. Although I can't fight middle-rank lords now, I'm definitely not some weakling who can't fight back. A flame divine might erupted from Su Fong's body. Not only did the divine might contain the pure yang divine might of the 9 yang divine fire, but it also contained the dragon bird's sun divine might. Sizzle! The surrounding demonic aura seemed to be boiling. It rapidly melted under Su Fong's divine might. Su Fong flipped his right palm, and the sky-piercing rainbow shuttle appeared in his palm. QL11. Although the sky-piercing rainbow shuttle was not as good as the sky-piercing golden rainbow, it had become a royal-grade divine weapon that could travel through the void after being reintegrated by the Golden Rainbow King. As the Golden Rainbow flew, Su Fong's figure followed the Golden Rainbow and traveled a distance of 1,000,000 miles in an instant. This was due to the shackles of Sin Botany Garden, so the sky-piercing rainbow shuttle could not unleash its full power. If it was in nature, its power would be even greater. Interesting. You've actually concealed your true strength. Moreover, you even possess the pure yang energy that can restrain demonic aura. How interesting! The shadow condensed into a young man with thick eyebrows and big eyes. The surrounding demonic aura gathered in his body. It was the demon expert Yuan Fu who had disguised himself as a G-People's expert. You're just a path integration cultivator. Wouldn't it be a joke if I let you escape from me? The young man smiled coldly. His figure swayed, and his body turned into nothingness again. He disappeared from where he was without a trace. Buzz, buzz. A sense of evil aura swept past Su Fong's body. The Heaven's Secret Life Shrinking Technique and the Heaven's Derivation Mystic Solution both sent out a warning at the same time. Damn it. This demon expert is so fast. Su Fong did not have time to catch his breath. He activated the sky-piercing rainbow shuttle again. After 3 consecutive times, Su Fong could not shake off the demon expert's pursuit. Although the sky-piercing rainbow shuttle was fast, how could it be faster than the demon expert's sense of perception? I have to counterattack. If I keep running for my life, I won't be able to escape from this demon expert's pursuit. Su Fong's eyes flashed with ruthlessness and decisiveness. He kept the sky-piercing rainbow shuttle. Heaven's Derivation Mystic Solution, disrupt the heavenly secrets. Then, he quickly formed a seal and used the Heaven's Derivation Mystic Solution to disrupt the heavenly secrets within 1,000 miles. In the Sin Plant Garden, the Heaven's Derivation Mystic Solution was also suppressed. However, it was still a supreme ability on the same level as the Heaven's Secret Life Shrinking Technique. When it was used by Su Fong, all the heavenly secrets within 1,000 miles were disrupted. This made it difficult for the demon expert to sense Su Fang's existence. At the same time, Su Fang released the dragon bird again. In just 3 short breaths, Yuan Fu's sinister voice sounded again. "Little ant, you made me waste so much time." Before he finished speaking, Yuan Fu's figure appeared again. Chi. The sun god's arrow suddenly shot out from the dragon bird's eyes. Immediately after, another burst of sun essence fire gushed out, drowning Yuan Fu's figure. "Humph!" Yuan Fu grunted. His figure swayed. He was actually injured by the dragon bird's divine power. Then, a demonic light exploded, melting away the dragon bird's divine power. Only then did his body become real. The dragon bird suddenly raised its head, and let out a cry that reverberated through the world. A divine sun hundreds of feet in size quickly formed above Yuan Fu. At the same time, a divine power that contained the power of time and fate that even Yuan Fu could not fathom formed a supreme heavenly Tao power that could reverse the past and future, enveloping him. In Su Fang's eyes, the black and white yin-yang vortex spun wildly, shooting out Xian Guang that landed on Yuan Fu's body. Light and shadows were reflected around Yuan Fu, reversing the past, controlling the future, mediating destiny technique. In a flash, Su Fang reached out and grabbed a light and shadow. The scene that appeared was the moment when Yuan Fu had just appeared and had yet to form his body. Yuan Fu's divine light changed instantly. Then, his divine body quickly blurred. He was about to disappear from this moment and return to the moment in the past. At this time, the divine sun formed by the dragon bird's innate ability suddenly exploded. The astonishing power of the sun surged out and hit Yuan Fu's figure. The figure that Su Fang had grabbed originally existed in the past. After being attacked by the dragon bird with all its might, it immediately shattered and vanished into nothingness. Run! A heavenly Tao backlash surged out of nothingness and hit Su Fang, causing him to spit out a mouthful of blood. His aura immediately withered, and in a short moment, he became an old man in his 60s. Not only that, he had also lost a great deal of luck. Dark clouds enveloped him. Fortunately, Su Fang had only gone back in time for an instant. Otherwise, the heavenly Tao backlash from using mediating destiny technique on a middle-rank lord would be enough to kill him. The dragon bird's aura withered as well. However, it looked much stronger than Su Fang. At least it could still fly. It spread its wings and flew over, carrying Su Fang swiftly into the depths of Botany Garden. A moment later, Yuan Fu's figure reappeared from nothingness. However, he looked very wretched. His body and face were covered in wounds caused by the sun's god power. His demonic chi was also extremely chaotic. It was clear that he was severely injured. If I'm not mistaken, this person is definitely not a nobody. He's Su Fang in disguise. He must have fused with the fruit of sin and obtained the human skin that can change his appearance and aura. I'm pretty lucky to have encountered Su Fang in Botany Garden. Even if I don't want the spiritual items in Botany Garden, as long as I can suppress Su Fang, the reward will be enough for me to return to my former peak ability. Chapter 2283. Su Fang did not escape far. The monstrous demonic aura quickly covered the sky and enveloped him. Heaven and earth turned into an evil demonic realm in an instant. Demonic clouds rolled, demonic flames burned, and a sinister and evil aura spread. Su Fang, you can't escape. Devouring a human prodigy really makes me excited, hee. Demonic shadows walked out of the demonic chi world and surrounded Su Fang from all directions. Their hideous laughter contained an evil power that could destroy one's will and Tao heart. I've been exposed. I'll go all out, Su Fang exclaimed in his heart. At such a critical moment, he could no longer care about the life and providence he had consumed. He merged with his heavenly Tao and projected the power of the yin-yang world outside his body. Boom, boom, boom. It was as if heaven and earth were being split open. The demonic realm that Yuan Fu created opened up, shattering the surrounding demonic aura layer by layer. He's actually reached level 5 of the Tao integration realm. As expected of a peerless prodigy of the human race. No wonder the demonic path, the evil path, and the forces that resurrected powerhouses have listed him as a must-kill target. Once he grows up, he'll be a huge threat. Such a peerless prodigy is going to die in my hands. My providence is really amazing. Yuan Fu was very pleased. He activated the demonic aura to corrode and demonize Su Fang's Tao integration realm layer by layer. With Su Fang's current strength, he could easily defeat an ordinary lower-rank lord. However, Yuan Fu was an intermediate-rank lord. Moreover, he had some kind of restrictive spell that made it difficult for Sin Plant Garden to form a shackle on him. This further widened the gap between him and Su Fang. Under Yuan Fu's attack, Su Fang's world quickly shrank. In less than half an hour, it was suppressed to a size of 100 miles. I, Su Fang, have never had any enmity with the demon race. We also have no conflict in the heavenly ruin temple. Why are you hunting me down? Su Fang looked like an arrow at the end of its flight. He shouted indignantly. You humans have occupied all the realms and forced the demon race into the dark world. Now that the world has changed, it's time for a change. The human race's Emperor Realm Masters are overestimating themselves and actually want to cultivate geniuses to enter the exalted celestial mountain to defy the heavens and change their fate. You are the #1 genius of the human race, even surpassing Di Yuan of the imperial people. Naturally, the demon race wants to kill you in advance. One of my important targets in entering the divine prison of law is you. So how can I let you go so easily? If you want to blame someone, blame it on your bad luck. Yuan Fu's smug voice sounded from the world of darkness. Su Fang asked in surprise, Divine prison of law? How did you know that this is the divine prison of law? And you're not shackled. You're about to die, so there's no harm in me telling you. I am the supreme expert of the devil race who was suppressed by the divine prison of heaven's law. During the first upheaval, the seal of the prison-suppressing codex that shackled me loosened, and one of my doppelgangers luckily escaped from the prison-suppressing codex. When I was escaping from the divine prison of heaven's law, I successfully took over the body of one of the guardians of the divine prison of heaven's law. The body I'm currently residing in is that expert's, so the divine prison of heaven's law is unable to bind me. I've explained so much to you. Now you can die in peace. Don't worry, I will devour your primordial spirit and keep your corporeal body. I will use your corporeal body to strengthen myself, so you can continue to live in another way. Yuan Fu replied coldly. A mere clone dares to be so arrogant? Su Fang smiled instantly. It was the same domineering smile as before. A powerful aura burst forth, and the heavenly law avatar appeared. Swish, swish. Rays of Yang spirit quickly merged into the fruit of the tree of Dharma. Metal, wood, water, fire, earth, thunder, blue sky, yellow springs, great Tao of time, yin-yang change, and all kinds of incomparably powerful divine abilities were displayed by Su Fang at the same time. Boom, boom. It was as if heaven and earth were falling apart. The various divine abilities unleashed by the Dharma idol caused the entire world of Botany Garden to tremble. Their powers were truly astonishing, enough to threaten an ordinary middle-rank lord. Yuan Fu was caught off guard. Yuan Fu's world of darkness was shattered by the terrifying attacks and completely collapsed. Yuan Fu staggered, and that human cultivator's face turned ghastly pale. Su Fang leaped onto the dragon bird's back and was carried away by the dragon bird. Su Fang had expended a great deal of his life force and luck to perform the mediating heavenly pivot. This time, he had merged with his heavenly Tao and almost exhausted all the energy in the heaven and earth Tao palace. Su Fang almost fainted as soon as he stepped onto the dragon bird's back. His body seemed to have collapsed, and more than half of his long hair had turned white. His aura had also become dispirited, making him look like an old man. He took out 3 blood crystals. All of them were condensed from the frost plant's life force and blood. At the moment, it was difficult for him to transform his corporeal body into blood. He could only use the old method, which was to cut open his chest and press the blood crystals directly into his heart. The moment the blood crystals came into contact with Su Fang's blood, they melted immediately and turned into burning flames. Then, his heart was like a water pump, sending majestic life force to every corner of his corporeal body. Fortunately, he had advanced to the next level and integrated with a small portion of the Divine Dragon's spiritual item, causing his great perfection corporeal body to become even more powerful. His life force had also become even more majestic. Otherwise, he would not have had the chance to escape this time. However, he was not completely out of danger yet. That demon tribe powerhouse could come at any time. Buzz, buzz. There are G people and demon tribe powerhouses. There's even a middle-rank lord powerhouse among them. This is going to be troublesome. Su Fang recovered slightly and immediately took out more than 10 runic talismans. He clasped his hands together, and the heavenly secret life shrinking technique runic talismans shattered one by one. The might of the heavenly secret life shrinking technique and the might of the heavenly secret solution erupted, silently concealing the aura within a radius of 50,000 kilometers. Even heavenly secret was completely disrupted. Now, Su Fang had a brief respite. He got the dragon bird to fly deep into the mountains and randomly found a cave. Then, he crushed a heavenly secret life shrinking technique runic talisman to conceal his aura. He then sat cross-legged in the cave and devoured blood crystals and pills without regard for anything else. About 3 months later, Su Fang finally recovered slightly. However, it was not much, only about 5 or 6 levels. The main reason was that he had used up too much energy this time. He could not use the azure falling blood dome to devour pills and spiritual items. Naturally, his recovery speed was much slower. Moreover, Su Fang had taken out the Divine Dragon's spiritual item, which had integrated a portion of its life force and wood-type essence. Otherwise, his recovery speed would be even slower. During this period, Demon Tribe and G People powerhouses constantly released their sensing abilities to search for his aura. Fortunately, Su Fang had made preparations beforehand. Otherwise, he would have fallen into the hands of Demon Tribe and G People powerhouses long ago. I can't stay here for long. Sooner or later, I'll be discovered by Demon Tribe and G People powerhouses. But in this Sin Botany Garden, where is the safest place? QL11 Su Fang furrowed his brows. After pondering for a moment, Su Fang's brows relaxed. He formed a seal and performed the heavenly revolving fate technique. However, the heavenly revolving fate technique this time was not used against the enemy. It was also not used to reverse the past and change fate. Instead, it was used to deduce his fate and heavenly secrets to find a chance of survival. As a result, the consumption of energy from using the revolving destiny technique this time was not great. It was still within the range that Su Fang could bear. Otherwise, he would not have dared to use it again even if he was 10 times more courageous. The only result would be death. The black and white yin-yang vortex rotated around Su Fang. Scenes of light and shadow constantly appeared. Dead end. There's no chance of survival. It's still a dead end. Su Fang continued to deduce. In the light and shadow that appeared, scenes of what would happen in the future were displayed. Different decisions would lead to different results, and the light and shadow displayed would also be different. However, no matter which direction he fled in, he would either be killed by the experts of the Devil Clan and the G People, or be trapped in the danger of Sin Garden. Am I going to die here? Su Fang's heart sank to the bottom. Lua once said that in this world, there is no such thing as a hopeless situation. There are only people who are desperate. I don't believe that I can't find a chance to survive. Su Fang gritted his teeth and performed the heavenly revolving fate technique again. Su Fong raised his eyebrows. This time, the scene that was displayed in the deduction was not from the Devil Clan and the G people, but from Sin Garden. In this deduction, Su Fong killed his way out of the encirclement and fled to the deepest part of Sin Garden. The light screen displayed a chaotic void, but there was a shocking bloody light, indicating that escaping here was a dead end. However, Su Fong stared carefully and found that there was a faint purple gas in the bloody light. When he tried to deduce further, it was difficult to deduce what was in this area, and even more impossible to deduce what would happen. That was because Su Fong's cultivation was not high enough, and the power of the heavenly revolving fate technique was not enough. In addition, what was hidden in that area was something that Su Fong could not deduce. There is a purple gas in the bloody light, indicating that there is a huge opportunity hidden in the great danger. Su Fong's spirit was lifted, and his eyes became hale and hearty. In any case, that is my only chance to escape. I have to give it a try no matter what. Even if I die there, it is much better than dying in the hands of the Devil Clan and the G people. Su Fong no longer hesitated. Next, he swallowed more than half of the spiritual object transformed from the divine dragon in one breath. The life force that Su Fong consumed finally recovered by more than 70 or 80%, and his appearance also returned to that of a 20-year-old, nearly 30 years old. And the energy in his body, under the state of constantly swallowing the Creation Saint pill and Yin Yang True Pole pill, also recovered to nearly 70%. Boom, boom, boom. The earth quaked and the mountains shook. Su Fong released his perfect sensing ability, and was shocked to find that the G People's expert had brought more than a dozen experts with him. They were activating their divine weapons and bombarding the ground in one area after another. Obviously, they wanted to use this method to force Su Fong to show himself. However, the expert from the Devil Clan did not show himself, and no one knew where he was hiding. Chapter 2284. Su Fong! We've finally caught this brat. Su Fong was enveloped by the golden rainbow formed by the sky-piercing rainbow shuttle's power. He was immediately discovered by the G People's expert. Boom, boom. The golden rainbow smashed through 7 barriers and finally slowed down. He was severely injured by Lord Yuan Fu and can't possibly recover fully. Capture him alive. Su Fong killed countless members of the G People. Our peerless prodigies, Ji Wuji, Ji Feng, and Ji Feng all died because of him. This time, we must skin him alive. Isn't it too easy for him to be skinned alive? We must skin his soul alive and let him be burned by the demonic flames for all eternity. The G People's experts gritted their teeth and charged toward Su Fong. The demon race's experts stayed in the distance and had no intention of attacking. They merely formed a large circle and blocked Su Fong's path of escape. The G People's expert, Ji Shishing, also had no intention of attacking. He looked coldly at Su Fong from afar. You want to capture Su Fong? You're far from enough. Su Fong snorted in disdain. He simply put away the sky-piercing rainbow shuttle and projected the heavenly Tao's power from his internal world, enveloping the 7 G People's experts. The G People's cultivators who entered the Divine Law prison were all expert. Apart from Ji Shishing, the weakest of the other G People's experts was a mid-stage Tao Integration Realm Heaven Monarch. The most powerful one was a peak-stage Tao Integration Realm Lord. In their opinion, with so many Tao Integration Realm experts surrounding Su Fong, who was a 5th-stage Tao Integration Realm cultivator and injured by the demon race's Yuan Fu, wouldn't it be a piece of cake for them to capture him? Who knew under the might of Su Fong's world, the 7 G People's experts felt that the heavenly Tao was being isolated. The astonishing shackles made it so that those below the domain lord level couldn't even merge with the heavenly Tao. Su Fong's heavenly Tao divine power was unleashed from his internal world. He was like a supreme ruler, unfettered by any shackles. In a flash, he appeared in front of a 4th Heaven Tao Integration Stage G People. Grabbing at the air, This Ji people's cultivator's blood-chi, bloodline, and even soul were forcibly absorbed by Su Fang's blue sky underworld divine might. Then, it was sucked into his divine body through his palm. QL11 in the blink of an eye, this Ji people's expert turned into a dried corpse, floating in the world of Su Fang. Whoosh, whoosh. As Su Fang's body swayed, the divine power of the blue sky underworld erupted continuously. 3 more Ji people's experts had their blood, and souls devoured and died on the spot. His life aura, which was originally 2 or 3 levels away from reaching its peak, rose rapidly in this short period of time and recovered to as much as 9 levels. The remaining 3 Ji people's experts were instantly scared out of their wits. They unleashed their full strength and broke free from the shackles of Su Fang's world. "How dare you be so arrogant in front of me?" Ji Shisheng roared furiously. The terrifying divine might of a lord-level expert descended with a loud boom, enveloping Su Fang's world. In an instant, Ji Shisheng's divine might rapidly materialized from illusion, forming a real world. Huge war drums rapidly appeared from all directions of Su Fang. They were as large as 1,000 feet and produced earth-shattering rumbling sounds. They gathered together and stirred up the space like a surging ocean, sweeping toward Su Fang. Boom, boom, boom. Su Fang's world was shaken by the sound of the drums and constantly shattered. After all, Ji Shisheng was a middle-rank lord-level expert. Among the Ji people, he was a peerless expert who was second only to the 3 patriarchs. Although Ji Shisheng's abilities were suppressed in Botany Garden and he could only unleash 60 to 70% of his abilities, it was still extremely shocking. Viciousness and decisiveness flashed through Su Fang's eyes. With a thought, his world exploded with a loud boom. Su Fang's world was formed by the condensation of divine might projected from the universe. When it exploded at that moment, its might was comparable to a full-powered attack from a peak middle-rank lord-level powerhouse. Its might was unparalleled. Boom. Ji Shisheng's world immediately collapsed. Even he, the Ji people, and the Demon Dao experts in the distance were affected. Ji Shisheng's body was sent flying violently. His divine body's defenses were shattered. Fortunately, he had a divine armor to protect him, so he was not seriously injured. The Ji people and demon tribe experts in the distance could not defend themselves against Su Fang's decisive attack. 3 of them died on the spot, while the others were all severely injured. Su Fang's self-explosion not only drained the power of his yin-yang world severely, but the Heaven and Earth Dao Palace also had very fine cracks. The world in his body also shook violently. He took a step forward and escaped into the void. He broke free of Botany Garden's shackles with all his might and instantly appeared several million kilometers away. Ji Shisheng, how dare you let Su Fang escape? The Ji people are so useless. It's no wonder that the Ji people were defeated by Su Fang. A young man with thick eyebrows and large eyes escaped from the void and mocked Ji Shisheng. Ji Shisheng snorted. Su Fang escaped from you before. What right do you have to mock me? I let him escape the first time because I was careless. This time, he won't be able to escape from me even if he escapes to the ends of the universe. Yuan Fu smiled coldly. An evil blood-red light surged in his eyes, and his body vanished from where he was in a flash. Su Fang had thrown caution to the wind at that moment. He unleashed his full power and fled for his life without regard for anything else. However, Yuan Fu caught up to him within a few breaths of time. There was a chaotic region ahead. It looked like there was nothing there, but it exuded an aura that made one's heart palpitate. The danger here is greater than anywhere else in Botany Garden. However, the most dangerous places often contain life. Su Fang gritted his teeth and entered the chaotic region. His figure instantly disappeared without a trace. A moment later, Yuan Fu appeared where Su Fang disappeared. He looked ahead with a look of dread and fear in his eyes. This place actually makes me shudder. I didn't expect there to be such a place in Botany Garden. No matter how dangerous it is, I can't let Su Fang escape. Yuan Fu snorted inexplicably and followed into the chaotic region. The moment Su Fang entered the chaotic region, he immediately felt that he had become immortal. His hearing, vision, smell, and other sensory abilities were suppressed to the extreme by an invisible force. His sensory range was less than 100 kilometers. His speed was also suppressed. He could barely fly. The circulation of his various powers also became sluggish. His cultivation was naturally suppressed as well. Su Fang cultivated the supreme heavenly Tao. In addition, his purple Qi Dharma spirit could control the heavens and earth. He had the ability to sense the power of the heavenly Tao. He was surprised to find that in this void of chaos, there was no natural spiritual energy of heaven and earth, nor was there any world energy. What made him feel shackled was a kind of innate heavenly energy. However, it was not chaos energy, but another kind of heavenly energy. Order. This power seemed to be born with the heavenly Tao. It maintained the operation of the heavenly Tao and the reproduction of all things. It was not as terrifying as the power of heavenly punishment or tribulation, but it was cold and strict. No one could violate it. It was vast and boundless. Whoosh! Su Fang heard the commotion behind him. He did not need to look to know that it was the demon race experts. His heart skipped a beat. He sped up and flew deeper into the chaotic region. The deeper he went, the stronger the power of the heavenly Tao order. Not only was his speed suppressed, but his strength was also gradually suppressed. The invisible power of order seeped into his body. His perfect body was slightly better. The power of the yin-yang world and his magic power were all shackled. His circulation speed was less than 1/10 of before. After traveling for more than 10 kilometers, Su Fang could not fly. He could only walk. Such a strange place. Looks like I have to catch Su Fang quickly and leave quickly. The deeper he went, the more frightened Yuan Fu felt. In this place, his demonic power was also suppressed. The body of the cultivator that he had taken over was also useless. However, the demon race's body was extremely strong. With the strength of his body, Yuan Fu was still much faster than Su Fang. Soon, he was less than 500 meters away from Su Fang. Su Fang, you better surrender. I will not hand you over to the G people. If you fall into my hands, I can still keep your body. If you fall into the hands of those stupid human cultivators of the G people, you will suffer a fate worse than death. Yuan Fu laughed sinisterly. His demonic voice that could destroy one's will and Tao heart was continuously released towards Su Fang. Boom, boom, boom. Su Fang suddenly unleashed the power of his perfect body. He took large strides forward and quickly widened the distance between the two of them. Your body is not bad. I like it. Yuan Fu was surprised. Then, he sneered and sped up. After traveling for 5 or 6 kilometers, Su Fang's perfect body also began to crack. Blood seeped out from the cracks. At the same time, he was shocked to find that the power of the heavenly Tao that had seeped into his body had shackled his meridians, flesh, divine apertures, and even his Tao palace like chains. It was as if it was building a prison inside his body to imprison him. Su Fang, since I can't capture you alive, I can only kill you. Yuan Fu also sensed that something was wrong. If he continued, he would be completely shackled here sooner or later. Immediately, a mighty figure jumped out from his eyes and instantly traversed the distance between them. He grabbed Su Fang with his palm. It felt like the palm was going to crush Su Fang into pieces. However, at this moment, the power of the heavenly Tao suddenly became violent. It shackled Yuan Fu from the inside out. Even the mighty figure was instantly shattered and turned into nothingness. Damn it! What the hell is this place? Yuan Fu, a demon tribe powerhouse comparable to a middle-rank lord, was scared out of his wits at this moment. Without hesitation, Yuan Fu detonated the human cultivator's body that he had possessed. A ferocious-looking demon god borrowed the force of the explosion to charge out of the bloody mist. It flew out and escaped the chaos zone in one breath. What's that? Yuan Fu's attack on Su Fang caused a disturbance in the depths of the chaos zone. With his perfect vision, Su Fang caught a glimpse of a rainbow-colored rock. Although it was just a glimpse, Su Fang was still able to see the stone clearly. It was not a rock, but a blooming lotus the size of a millstone. It felt somewhat similar to the golden lotus stone flower that Su Fang had merged with in the small world. However, this lotus was extremely exquisite. It gave Su Fang a feeling that it was the work of nature. Chapter 2285. What is this? It can release the power of heavenly Tao order? The rainbow stone lotus quickly disappeared into the chaos and disappeared. However, the power of heavenly Tao order it released shackled Su Fang from the inside out. Su Fang felt that his entire body had become a part of the prison and was shackled by the power of heavenly Tao order. If this continued, he would be completely shackled here and be trapped to death. What should I do? Su Fang sensed his body. It was fine that he could see his perfect realm physical body, but the heaven and earth Tao palace had cracked because of the self-destruction of the world. Now, the heaven and earth Tao palace was his source of energy. Any slight damage would affect his future cultivation. He couldn't care about the future now. It was difficult to pass this hurdle. Inside the heaven and earth Tao palace, inside and outside his physical body, including his divine aperture, yang spirit, and dermic powers, everything was infiltrated by the power of heavenly Tao order and formed shackles. Suddenly, Su Fang's eyes became incomparably hale and hearty. The power of heavenly Tao order is also a kind of innate power of heavenly Tao. I will use the Great Yen Seal and the 9 Yang transformation to try to let the Yang Meridian and World Tree absorb and fuse them. The world in my body is a universe that contains all things. It contains the supreme heavenly Tao and will definitely contain the power of heavenly Tao order. In this way, I will no longer be shackled. I might even be able to control the power of heavenly Tao order. Su Fang actually wanted to absorb the power of heavenly Tao order. Such a thought was extremely bold. The power of Yin-Yang world, the Great Yen Seal. Su Fang activated the power of the World Tree and the Yang Meridian. The astonishing power of Yin-Yang world suddenly erupted and forcibly shook the power of heavenly Tao order out of his body. The shackles in the surrounding dozens of feet were shattered. He quickly formed a seal and used the Great Yen Seal. The supreme power of heavenly Tao, which was derived from all things in the world and evolved into all things in the world, suddenly burst out. The Great Yen Seal. Su Fang had comprehended the Chaos Sea and verified the Yin-Yang transformation. From it, he had comprehended 2 supernatural powers that he had created himself. Under the Great Yen Seal's power of heavenly Tao order, the surrounding power of order changed and turned into a mysterious power of creation that swept towards Su Fang. Qi. The power of the heavenly Tao order that was constantly crushing down crumbled layer by layer. The area around Su Fang was cleared of about 1 mile of empty space. The power of order was converted into the power of creation by the Great Development Seal. Then, it was absorbed by the Su Fang's Yang vein and World Tree. The energy consumed by the self-destruction of the world was quickly replenished. However, Su Fang's actions had clearly infuriated the Rainbow Stone Lotus. The power of heavenly Tao order it released became even more violent. With the help of the Purple Cloud Spirit, Su Fang could see chains condensed from the power of order. They emitted a terrifying aura that could shackle all things in the world as they surged over from all directions. The speed of the Great Development Seal is far from enough. I'll just use the Yang vein and the World Tree to absorb it until the Rainbow Stone Lotus is sucked dry. Su Fang revealed a domineering smile. The 71 Yang meridians in his body and the World Tree were activated at this moment. The entire heaven and earth Tao palace spewed out divine might. At the same time, Su Fang unleashed his ethereal quintessence, unleashing the power of his yin-yang world to absorb the power of the heavenly Tao order. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. The chains formed from the power of heavenly Tao order were penetrated by Su Fang's power and then absorbed bit by bit. Finally, they turned into power that Su Fang could fuse with, causing the power in Su Fang's heaven and earth Tao palace to surge. However, the power released by the rainbow stone lotus was so vast and majestic that Su Fang found it difficult to absorb it all in a short period of time. The chains shackled his body and seeped into his body. QL11 Su Fang gritted his teeth and absorbed the chi of 9 yin from the chaos essence sacred realm. The speed at which the heaven and earth Tao palace absorbed it increased by 100-fold, continuously surging into the world tree. The world tree was like a huge black hole that began to directly absorb the power of heavenly Tao order. It was almost out of Su Fang's control and was like a surging river that could not be stopped. Rustle. The world tree trembled violently. Although it did not grow, it became taller and more upright. It emitted a mysterious power of order, causing the entire heaven and earth Tao palace to become orderly and orderly. The Yang Meridian, Divine Sun, Divine Moon, and various great Tao nomological laws in the heaven and earth Tao palace operated more rationally and faster under the constraints of this mysterious power of order. At the same time, it drove all of Su Fang's power, increasing the speed at which he absorbed the power of order by more than tenfold. Su Fang had a strong feeling that this power of heavenly Tao order was exactly what his inner world lacked. If his inner world had this power, it would undergo an earth-shattering change. This change was brought about by the 8th transformation of the 9 Yang 9 transformations. In other words, the successful birth of the 72nd Yang meridian did not lack the accumulation of Yang energy, but an opportunity. This opportunity was the power of heavenly Tao order. The chains formed from the power of heavenly Tao order collapsed layer by layer. The surging power in the surroundings collapsed layer by layer and surged into Su Fang's body like an army of thousands of horses. At this moment, it was no longer the power of heavenly Tao order that wanted to shackle Su Fang, but Su Fang was actively absorbing this power. Boom! Boom! As the layers collapsed, the empty space around Su Fang grew larger and larger, from 100 feet to 100 feet to 10 miles and still continuing to extend. Under such astonishing devouring power, Su Fang's strength rapidly recovered. Even the cracks in the heaven and earth Tao palace were unknowingly mended. A little more intense. Only then can the 72nd Yang meridian be born, as soon as possible. Su Fang's eyes flashed with excitement. He wished that the power of heavenly Tao order would be 10 times, 100 times more intense. Who knew things did not go as he wished? The power of heavenly Tao order was like a river that had its source cut off. It gradually weakened and finally disappeared. What's going on? Su Fang was shocked and stunned. He looked over. The rainbow stone lotus was once again revealed because the surrounding power of heavenly Tao order had been completely devoured. Su Fang used his great perfection ability to carefully examine the rainbow stone lotus. He sensed that this stone lotus was like the embodiment of heavenly Tao order. It was a kind of shackle, restriction, and at the same time, a guarantee that heavenly Tao could operate and evolve. Su Fang also sensed that this rainbow stone lotus had fused with the internal space of the entire Sin Garden. It was subtly restricting, and at the same time absorbing the essence of those spiritual objects. The divine prison of heaven's law comes from the celestial worthy mountain. I'm afraid that even those venerable sovereigns can't unravel the origin of this rainbow stone lotus. Only the supreme existence of the imperial people can truly know its origin. Su Fang thought for a while and suddenly slapped his forehead. I actually forgot about senior sister. As his strength increased, Su Fang asked Xu Wanjin for help less and less. He often relied on his own ability to resolve various crises. Su Fang now understood that Xu Wanjin was not yet an over-god expert and was not far away from him. However, she had found many books, jade slips, and notes outside the Advent Divine Palace. Her understanding of the celestial worthy mountain even exceeded some ordinary venerable sovereigns. She should know the origin of this rainbow stone lotus. Su Fang immediately activated the Origin Divine Mirror and peeled off a strand of Yang's spirit. He quickly entered the crimson magic treasure space from the mirror and began to release Yang Qi and some 9 Yin Qi. Only a moment later, the familiar cold air came faintly. Xu Wanjin's voice sounded faintly with the cold air. Did you encounter any danger in the divine prison of heaven's law? I can't stay here all the time. If you encounter any danger that you can't resolve, you must contact me immediately. Thank you for your concern, senior sister. Su Fang did not waste any more time and allowed Xu Wanjin to see the rainbow stone lotus with his divine power. After pondering for a long time, Xu Wanjin slowly said, "Everything that is related to the exalted celestial mountain is incomparably mysterious. Even I cannot determine what this rainbow stone lotus is. I can only speculate based on what I know. This rainbow stone lotus should be similar to an origin source gem. However, it doesn't contain the power of a world, but a kind of origin source gem of the universe. According to my speculations, it should be a supreme existence of the universe that created the divine prison of heaven's law with the order of the heavenly way to maintain the operation of the heavenly way. This supreme power absorbed the matter and power of Sin Garden, and after countless years of precipitation, it condensed into this rainbow stone lotus. Therefore, this rainbow stone lotus contains the origin source gem of the universe, so you can use it to cultivate the supreme heavenly way. Moreover, this rainbow stone lotus is not an ordinary origin source gem. It contains the illusory and profound order of the heavenly way. It will be of great benefit to the cultivation of your inner world." Su Fang nodded and said, "I also have this feeling. As long as I fuse with this rainbow stone lotus, my 9 Yang 9 transformations will definitely step into the 8th transformation. The world in my body will also undergo a tremendous change because of this. It's just that I don't understand why. It's actually very simple. Think about it. What is order? Order is the foundation that maintains the heavenly way. When your inner world has order, it means that it is no longer in a chaotic and disorderly state. The transformation will naturally be extremely shocking." I understand. However, this 7-colored stone lotus has merged with your Sin Garden. I'm afraid it won't be that easy to obtain it. Let me take a look first. If it really doesn't work, I can only ask for Senior Sister's help to activate the Origin Sacred Mirror and use the Yin-Yang transformation to keep the rainbow stone lotus. I will go first. I hope you can successfully obtain this rainbow stone lotus and reach the 8th transformation as soon as possible. After Xu Wanjin finished speaking, she turned into nothingness with the cold air and disappeared without a trace within the Origin Sacred Mirror. Chapter 2286. Outside the chaotic region where the rainbow stone lotus was located, the demon race expert Yuan Fu had already reverted from a sinister and evil demon god to an extremely handsome and bewitching man. I didn't expect that I would lose a physical body just to kill a mere Dao integration stage cultivator. It wasn't easy for me to obtain a perfect human body in the divine prison of heaven's law. Now, it won't be easy for me to enter the main hall to obtain the prison-suppressing codex and rescue my true body. Looking at the chaotic region ahead, Yuan Fu revealed an expression of resentment. The human cultivator's physical body was a prison guardian of the divine prison of heaven's law. Using this person's aura, it was relatively easy to enter the Sin Garden and the main palace. In order to hunt down Su Fang, he destroyed this physical body. This made Yuan Fu's heart ache. Ji Shisheng, who had already caught up, chuckled. "Lord Yuan Fu, the reward you received from the higher-ups of the demon race for killing Su Fang this time is enough to make up for your loss. What's there to feel sad about? You're right. Yuan Fu snorted. However, I finally entered the divine prison of heaven's law this time. No matter what, I have to obtain the prison's suppressing codex. Ji Shishing said, the Luo clan has already made sufficient preparations for the Yuan Tiangong geniuses to enter the divine prison of heaven's law this time. That Di Yuan might also have some tricks up his sleeve. If Lord Yuan Fu wants to obtain the prison suppressing codex, you don't have to enter the main palace. When the time comes, you can just snatch the prison suppressing codex from whoever obtains it. Yuan Fu nodded. That's right. I don't have to go to the main palace. However, I have to obtain the plant spirit treasures in the Sin Garden. It turned out that in the Sin Garden, the experts of the divine prison of heaven's law used a supreme forbidden spell to transform those death row prisoners into plant spirit treasures. Yuan Fu suddenly looked at the people around him. I'm going to obtain the plant spirit treasures that are extremely important to me. One of you stay behind. The rest of you follow me to obtain the treasures. Each of you can obtain a plant spirit treasure. Yes. Let's go. Yuan Fu turned and flew away. The other demon Dao experts followed closely behind him and finally disappeared into the depths of the Sin Garden. Su Fang, how arrogant were you when you defeated the Ji people back then? You didn't expect that you would also become the person you are today. Ji Shishing looked at the primal chaos region and revealed an incomparably delighted smile. You stay here. Ji Shishing pointed at a Ji people's expert. Although they were certain that Su Fang was dead, they hadn't witnessed Su Fang's death with their own eyes. Whether it was Ji Shishing or the devil race's Yuan Fu, they were a bit worried. However, they didn't dare enter the primal chaos region, so they left behind experts to guard outside. The rest of you, follow me to find a plant spirit treasure that can help our clan's first ancestor become a peerless sovereign. Let's go. Ji Shishing brought the remaining 3 Ji people's experts and flew in the opposite direction of Yuan Fu. In the depths of the primal chaos region, Su Fang activated the power of the world of yin and yang to envelop the rainbow stone lotus. Then, he continued to penetrate it, intending to collect it. Who knew, from the inside of the rainbow stone lotus, there was an astonishing power of heavenly Tao order. After a few vibrations, it shattered Su Fang's power and even intertwined to form layers of powerful defensive barriers around it, merging with the inner world of Sin Plant Garden. Moreover, there was a vast and chilling power of order that constantly surged out, shrouding Su Fang and the entire primal chaos region like a huge heaven and earth cage. The power of order condensed into huge chains of order and waved crazily around the rainbow stone lotus. The seemingly calm rainbow stone lotus had turned into a ferocious and terrifying octopus monster at this moment. It was obvious that the rainbow stone lotus had its own consciousness. Although it didn't have the intelligence of a human, it wasn't easy to collect it. Su Fang released the power of the world of yin and yang. The shackles around him were instantly weakened by half. Although they were still shackled, they couldn't seal him. This was because Su Fang had devoured a large amount of heavenly Tao order, causing the world in his body and the power of the world of yin and yang to contain the same power. Naturally, the shackles on him were weakened by a lot. Rainbow Stone Lotus, Rainbow Stone Lotus. You will definitely be the nourishment for Su Fang to become an unparalleled expert. Any resistance is futile. Su Fang smiled domineeringly. With a flip of his right hand, the Origin Sacred Mirror appeared in his palm. The moment the Origin Sacred Mirror appeared, before Su Fang could activate it, the Rainbow Stone Lotus sensed the aura emitted by the mirror. Immediately, it trembled violently and revealed a terrified expression. The chains of order that were waving at Su Fang shrank back. The Origin Sacred Mirror must be a supreme artifact of the celestial worthy mountain. It surpasses any power of heavenly Tao and naturally surpasses the power of heavenly Tao order. It makes the Rainbow Stone Lotus feel instinctive fear. With such a supreme artifact, How can I not reach the pinnacle? Su Fang activated the power of 9 suns and poured it into the mysterious space from the scarlet mirror. The origin sacred mirror was activated and a red light shot out from the mirror. The rainbow stone lotus was not a magic treasure or a spiritual object. Therefore, it did not take the initiative to escape. It only released an astonishing power of heavenly Tao order to protect itself. Whoosh! The red light enveloped the rainbow stone lotus in a large area and immediately shattered the chains of order it released. Then, it covered its defenses and ignited the 9 suns' true fire. The rainbow stone lotus was unable to move at all. It could only instinctively struggle and tremble. I didn't expect a treasure formed by the heavenly Tao origin to be so fragile under the power of the origin sacred mirror. Now, I don't have to use the yin-yang transformation to activate the mirror to break it down. Joining forces with Shu Wanjin to activate the origin sacred mirror with the yin-yang transformation was truly domineering. It could return any matter or energy to its original state and turn it into connate chaos chi. Su Fang wanted to fuse with the power of order in the rainbow stone lotus to attack the 72nd yang meridian. Naturally, he hoped to absorb it completely into the mirror's space. He did not want the rainbow stone lotus to break down and turn into chaos chi. As long as he continued to activate the origin sacred mirror, it would not be long before he could subdue it. Under the divine power of the 9 suns' true fire, the rainbow stone lotus's defenses began to shatter. Just when Su Fang thought he could immediately absorb it into the mirror's space, the rainbow stone lotus suddenly shot out rays of rainbow light and forcibly blasted away the 9 suns' true fire released by the origin sacred mirror. The rainbow light faded into the void and quickly turned corporeal. Like the roots of a tree, it took root in the Sin Garden world. Sizzle! An incomparably pure aura poured into the 7-colored stone lotus from the root. The rainbow stone lotus turned into a lifelike rainbow stone lotus. It bloomed with resplendent light and released an astonishing aura. It was actually resisting the burning of the 9 suns' true fire. This, the rainbow stone lotus, is actually absorbing the essence of the spiritual items in the Sin Garden to protect itself. Su Fang was extremely shocked. He did not expect the rainbow stone lotus to be so powerful. However, after thinking for a while, Su Fang also understood. The rainbow stone lotus was actually equivalent to the Sin Garden's world fragment. Moreover, it had its own consciousness. It could mobilize the essence of the spiritual items in the Sin Garden to protect itself. It was a very normal thing. The number of plant spirit treasures in the Sin Garden was innumerable. They contained an incomparably majestic essence aura. How shocking would it be when they gathered together? No matter how powerful the origin sacred mirror was, it was impossible for it to devour all the plant spirit treasures in the Sin Garden in a short time. Anyway, I have plenty of time. Let's see who can last until the end. A ruthless force surged in Su Fang's heart. He peeled off a sun spirit and controlled the origin sacred mirror to constantly release red light to wear down the rainbow stone lotus's power. Su Fang's original body sat down cross-legged not far away. The divine dragon that was absorbed by the origin sacred mirror was only half absorbed by Su Fang. It was just the right time to cultivate and break through to the peak of the 5th heaven of the ultimate God realm. After forming the seal, Su Fang's body collapsed and turned into the blue sky underworld state. A body condensed from the blood, then Su Fang grabbed the sealed divine dragon's shadow. In the blue sky underworld's reincarnation divine power, the divine dragon's shadow was constantly devoured. The pure and majestic dragon chi, wood elemental essence, and life chi in it were quickly drained and absorbed by Su Fang. At this moment, as the rainbow stone lotus was crazily absorbing the essence of the plant spirit treasures in the Sin Garden to fight against the origin sacred mirror, it caused the plant spirit treasures in the Sin Garden to undergo drastic changes. Some people were also unlucky. After Luo Xingtian recovered a little, he continued to use his blood to fuse with the Tree of Stars. The star fruits on the tree became extremely real. One could even see the outline of the mountains and oceans on the stars. The entire tree of stars was filled with Luo Xingtian's aura. Luo Xingtian almost collapsed, but his eyes under his eyebrows were shining with vigor. I'll be able to completely fuse with the tree of stars in 10 days at most. Then, I'll have unlimited possibilities to reach the peak and even surpass it. Su Fang, I'll let you know what a real peerless genius is. Luo Xingtian revealed a domineering smile. Although he was dispirited, he was in high spirit. Suddenly, the tree of stars suddenly trembled violently. Luo Xingtian could feel the essence of the tree of stars, including the blood qi that he had fused with the tree of stars, crazily flowing into the void. Damn it! What's going on? Why is this happening? Luo Xingtian could not control the flow of his aura and was instantly shocked. However, all his efforts were in vain. Luo Xingtian tried everything he could, but not only was he unable to stop the situation from developing, it was getting worse. Even the blood qi, divine spirit, and dermic powers in his body were flowing into the tree of stars and into the void. Why is this happening? Luo Xingtian was extremely unwilling, but what could he do? In the end, he had to clench his teeth and cut off the connection with the tree of stars. He could only watch as the cooked duck flew away. The tree of stars was prepared by my ancestors for Luo Xingtian. Who is robbing me of my fortune? Who? Chapter 2287. Of course, Luo Xingtian was not the only unlucky one. The demon tribe powerhouse, Yuan Fu, used the memories of the powerhouse from the divine prison of law that he had possessed. He quickly found his target in the depths of Sin Garden. It was a bloody cloud that spanned hundreds of miles. It exuded a shocking and evil demonic qi. This is a plant spirit treasure formed by a demon god that's equivalent to a human venerable emperor powerhouse. It was suppressed by the divine prison of law and formed by a restrictive spell. Although I won't reach the level of a venerable emperor after devouring this treasure, I'll at least be able to elevate to the peak of a lord in a short period of time. That way, it'll be easy to seize the prison-suppressing codex and rescue me. Di Yuan, Su Fang, Yi Luoyang, these human geniuses who entered the divine prison of law, including the powerhouses outside, will all be devoured by me. By then, I'll even be able to devour me. I'll be in charge of everything. Yuan Fu's devilishly handsome face was filled with glee. As his menacing laughter echoed in Sin Garden, he unleashed an evil blood qi and opened his arms. The floating bloody cloud was like a ferocious beast that had smelled blood. It swept over in a frenzy with a whoosh, enveloping Yuan Fu and entering his body in a frenzy, devouring his demonic qi and blood qi. Yuan Fu's face was contorted, becoming ferocious and terrifying. His face was filled with pain, but his eyes flickered with morbid and insane excitement. He allowed the bloody cloud to devour him. Who knew? The bloody cloud suddenly stopped surging. It then flowed into the void in a frenzy, as if there was a bloody mouth in the void that was devouring the bloody cloud wantonly. Who's stealing my plant spirit treasure? You must have a death wish. Yuan Fu bellowed domineeringly. He unleashed his demonic qi, which instantly enveloped the space within 10,000 miles. It transformed into an evil demonic realm that he dominated. However, the result was surprising and shocking. Since he had lost the body he had possessed, his abilities were suppressed. However, he still possessed abilities close to middle-rank lords. QL11 Even with his current abilities, he could not control the flow of the bloody cloud. He could not even sense the source of the devouring bloody cloud. Apart from the shock, an inexplicable fear surged in his heart. At the highest point of the inner world of Sin Garden, the closer one was to Sin Garden's barrier, the more shocking the shackles. It was difficult for ordinary gods to come into contact with the barrier. At that moment, Di Yuan was walking up in the air. His snow-white robe was in tatters. There were no more than 10 cracks that seeped out blood. and he no longer had his usual imposing figure. His face was filled with exhaustion, and his aura was dispirited. However, his eyes flickered with a hale and hearty light, and his entire body emitted an aura of indomitable determination. A golden heart was embedded in the barrier at a height of 1,000 feet above the barrier. His heart was beating rapidly, emitting a wonderful sound of the heavenly way. Moreover, it was emitting an astonishing aura that only an Emperor Realm Master could possess. Luo Xingtian, you think that only the Luo clan knows the true origin of the Heaven Ruin Temple, but you have forgotten that I am from the Supreme God clan. Everyone thought that this young master had entered the divine prison of law to compete with Su Fang, but who would have thought that this young master was actually here for the heart of a supreme venerable master? How could a mere Su Fang be worthy of this young master's attention? As long as I get this heart, even if I can't fuse with it now, just by listening to the heavenly God Emperor's demonic qi and absorbing the life essence in the heart, this young master's cultivation and primordial spirit will improve by leaps and bounds. Di Yuan's eyes flashed with decisiveness and ruthlessness. He unleashed all his cultivation and took a big step forward. He rose more than 70 feet. He was only 20 feet away from the heart. He only needed to recover some of his strength, and he could get it in one go. Di Yuan released a golden mirror. The Xian Guang it released blocked the shackles outside. He then sat down cross-legged to recover. Sizzle! Golden qi suddenly emerged from the heart. It poured into the barrier and disappeared into nothingness. Di Yuan's pupils abruptly constricted and shot out a shocking light. His face was filled with disbelief. Days passed, and the heart was also passing away. Di Yuan's heart was bleeding. His mind was in a mess. He couldn't calm down to recover. Ji Shisheng led the 3G People's experts and found the treasure they were looking for. It was a 10-foot tall rock. It stood at the peak of a mountain. The shape of the rock was like a large bell. It exuded an ancient and boundless qi. It was as if the sound of this stone bell could shake the world and change the vicissitudes of the sun and moon. This rock was a sealed Emperor-level expert. It was a gem formed by the divine prison of law's expert. It was very similar to the heavenly god avatar. The reason why the Ji people risked being exterminated by the Yuan Tiangong and joined forces with the demon race experts to enter the divine prison of law was because Yuan Fu had provided the Ji people with information about this stone bell. The 3G people's experts surrounded the stone bell. They constantly released life-blood qi and seeped into the stone bell. The stone bell absorbed the life-blood qi like a sponge. It gradually gained spirituality. On the other hand, the 3G people's experts' qi gradually weakened. The G people's method of collecting the stone bell was very simple. They didn't hesitate to consume the lives of the G people's experts so that the stone bell would contain the life-blood qi of the G people. Then, Ji Shisheng would take it away and bring it back to the Ji people. He would let the Ji people's first ancestor cultivate it. Once the first ancestor fuses with this stone bell, he will be able to reach the peak of King God and become a peerless emperor. Our clan was bullied by Emperor Sangqiu. Ji Wuji was killed by the Yuan Tiangong expert. Isn't it because our clan doesn't have an emperor-level expert? Once our first ancestor becomes an emperor-level expert, who will dare to bully our clan? The continuous humiliation of the Ji people made Ji Shisheng's heart burn with hatred. Flames of hatred burned in his eyes. Buzz, 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 the stone bell suddenly trembled. Its qi quickly seeped into the ground and disappeared without a trace. What's going on? The sudden change caused Ji Shisheng's divine aura to change instantly. The 3G people's experts used all their strength, but they couldn't stop the stone bell's qi from flowing away. Ji Shisheng displayed his extremely cold and ruthless side. He unleashed his divine might and attacked the 3G people's experts. Puff, puff, puff. The 3G people's experts turned into blood at the same time. They surged toward the stone bell and quickly seeped into it. However, the result made Ji Shixing reveal a look of despair. The lives of the 3G people's experts couldn't stop the stone bell's qi from flowing away. Could it be that the heavens want our G people to die? Ji Shixing, an intermediate chief god, also fell into despair. He couldn't help but spit out a mouthful of blood. Suddenly, Ji Shixing grabbed a rune talisman with his right hand. The voice of the G people's expert outside the primal chaos region sounded from the rune talisman. Great Elder, come quickly. There's movement in the primal chaos region. Ji Shixing trembled. What movement? I can faintly sense the aura of tribulation. It seems like someone is advancing. Advancing? Could it be Su Fang? Su Fang didn't die. He even advanced in that place of certain death. Ji Shixing revealed a look of disbelief. Then, he roared angrily. If I can't obtain the supreme treasure, I will be severely punished when I return to the clan. If Su Fang is allowed to live, even I won't be able to escape death. Su Fang, you must die. I want to see you if you're alive. If you're dead, I want to see your corpse. His voice was still echoing when Ji Shixing's figure disappeared from the mountain peak. In the deepest part of the primal chaos region, Su Fang's yang spirit continued to control the Origin sacred mirror. It released a red glow. The 9 yang true fire enveloped the rainbow stone lotus and burned fiercely. As for Su Fang's true body, a wave of tribulation fire exploded from his body like a force. It quickly enveloped his entire body. Together with the illusory fire cloud and the 9 yang divine fire, it burned wildly. It made whistling sounds. The burning was so terrifying. The moment the impurities surged out of the placenta, they turned into ashes. Every advancement was a huge metamorphosis. However, metamorphosis also meant great pain. However, Su Fang's eyes revealed a look of enjoyment. Only by enduring pain again and again could one welcome the joy of success. In a short period of time, he was able to have such shocking gains. It was mainly because of his adventures in the Sin Garden. He swallowed the power of the heavenly Tao order and the divine dragon plant spirit treasure. That was why he advanced so quickly. If he cultivated in seclusion step by step, it would be normal for him to cultivate for 1,000,000 years. Soon, the impact on his body ended. He welcomed the power of advancement, which swept through his physical body, divine apertures, and Tao palace. One of the 5 heavenly marks split into 6. Moreover, the aura of the world in his body became much more vast. This meant that Su Fang had entered the 6th heaven of the Tao integration stage. I advanced another level so quickly. Although the trip to the divine prison of Heaven's Law was extremely dangerous, and I was almost killed by the experts of the devil race and the G people, I also gained a lot. Su Fang's face was pale. He was weak after his advancement. However, his heart was brimming with joy. There is still a lot of energy in the divine dragon's spiritual object. It is just enough to fill up the emptiness of my physical body after my advancement. With all kinds of elixirs, I will try to stabilize my 6th heaven realm quickly. Su Fang calmed down and swallowed the elixirs. He fused with the few remaining divine dragon spiritual objects to stabilize his newly advanced realm and restore the emptiness in his body. About 3 days later, looking at the rainbow stone lotus that was constantly resisting the Origin sacred mirror, Su Fang shook his head and smiled bitterly. I didn't expect that it would be so troublesome to collect the rainbow stone lotus. I don't know how long it will take. It is a pity that there are so many spiritual objects. After I collect the rainbow stone lotus, all the spiritual objects will be greatly damaged. Moreover, they will be incinerated by the 9 yang true fire. What a pity! Suddenly, he raised his eyebrows. A sharp and cold light shot out from his eyes. The master god of the G people actually entered the primal chaos region personally. My advancement must have alarmed him. Since you are here, don't leave. Su Fang stretched out his hand and waved. The Origin's sacred mirror and the sun god were all taken back into his body. The rainbow stone lotus thought that it had escaped a calamity. It immediately cheered and trembled. It seemed to be very excited. At the same time, it stopped devouring the spiritual objects in the Sin Garden. The heavenly Tao order was released again, filling the primal chaos region. However, to Su Fang, the heavenly Tao order was no longer able to completely shackle him. It was just suppressing him. Su Fang continued to sit cross-legged on the ground. His physical body was collapsing. His aura had also become weak. He looked like he had not recovered from his serious injuries. It turned out that... Chapter 2288. Whoosh! Ji Shixing's figure flashed and entered the chaos region. Su Fang, it's really you. You're actually still alive. As the power of the heavenly Tao order released by the rainbow stone lotus was not as shocking as before, Ji Shixing saw Su Fang as soon as he entered the chaos region. His eyes were filled with surprise and shock when he saw Su Fang. Then, he saw the rainbow stone lotus not far from Su Fang. Ji Shixing sensed that this item was extraordinary, and his eyes became incomparably hardy. No wonder there are such shocking shackles here. It's because of this treasure. However, Ji Shixing did not dare to be careless. He activated his defenses and broke free from the shackles of the heavenly Tao order as he slowly advanced. When he was only 1,000 feet away from Su Fang was still sitting there without moving. It was obvious that he was severely injured. You've actually advanced to the 6th firmament of the Tao integration stage. Su Fang, you're truly a heaven-defying, peerless genius. When Ji Shixing saw Su Fang's cultivation level, he was instantly shocked again. However, when he saw Su Fang's severely injured appearance, he concluded that Su Fang had not recovered from his injuries and had forcefully advanced with the help of pills and spiritual items, causing his injuries to worsen. He could not help but be overjoyed. Su Fang, I'll refine your body into a puppet and burn your essence spirit with demonic flames, torturing you for eternity, Su Fang said indifferently. I'm the saint of the Yuan Tiangong. If you kill me, aren't you afraid that the Ji people will be annihilated? Ji Shixing gritted his teeth. As long as I can kill you, so what if my people are annihilated? Su Fang revealed a mocking expression. Let me tell you something. The Ji people will be annihilated. However, they will not be annihilated by the Yuan Tiangong. They will be annihilated by my own hands. With just you? Even if you're in your peak condition, you can only be suppressed by me. You're still injured and you still dare to be so arrogant in front of me? I know that you are someone who can surpass your level. However, the difference between mythic level and overgods is like the difference between heaven and earth. You are indeed extraordinary, and perhaps you can defeat ordinary overgods. However, I am definitely not an ordinary overgod. Su Fang, you've killed so many experts of my clan. Now that you've died in my hands, your death is not worth regretting. Hand over your life. Ji Shixing laughed savagely. A wave of divine might accompanied by the rumbling of war drums shattered the surrounding shackles and swept towards Su Fang. You'll be the first middle-rank lord that Su Fang has suppressed. You should feel extremely honored. Su Fang let out a domineering roar as the power of the yin-yang world shot out. Then, he unleashed the ethereal enlightenment divine ability, and the illusory power quickly transformed into a real universe. Ji Shixing was enveloped by Su Fang's world. To his shock, he discovered that not only was Su Fang not in a severely injured state as he had thought, but his current strength was also several times more powerful than when they had fought previously. What was even more shocking was that Su Fang's world had an additional power that was exactly the same as the power of the divine prison of heaven's law, the power of the heavenly Tao order. It was also because of the additional power of the heavenly Tao order that Su Fang's world had clearly become stronger, more compact, and more solid. It was difficult to shake it. Su Fang has lured me here to kill me. Ji Shishing was shocked and aghast. A great sense of danger surged into his heart. This kind of feeling was like a pig or sheep waiting to be slaughtered suddenly turned into a terrifying tiger with a shake of its body. I'm a mighty overgod. Why would I be afraid of a mere mythic-level cultivator like you? Ji Shishing unleashed his powerful cultivation base as a overgod. The rumbling sound of the drum shook Su Fang's world, causing it to tremble and shake. A overgod who is at the same level as Senior Xing Wuji is indeed extremely powerful. However, in this divine prison of heaven's law, only death awaits you. Su Fang was determined to kill this Ji people's powerhouse. He unleashed his heavenly Tao Dharma power. A Dharma tree that was more than 100 feet tall appeared in the world. Although it was only 100 feet tall, it emanated an aura that seemed to support the universe. The fruits hanging from the branches contained a terrifying aura of the Great Path. What kind of strange heavenly Tao Dharma power is this? There's no need to merge with the heavenly Tao. No, he's merging with his own heavenly Tao to unleash the heavenly Tao Dharma power. Ji Shishing's divine light changed instantly. A fatal sense of danger made him want to shatter Su Fang's world and escape without hesitation. Even though Ji Shishing possessed the powerful strength of a middle-rank overgod, he still needed some time to shatter Su Fang's world. A spark was enough to determine life and death. Swoosh! Swoosh! In an instant, the power of the universe poured onto Ji Shishing's body, triggering an earth-shattering explosion. Ji Shishing's defense shattered with a loud bang. Then, it was his divine body. The lower half of his body below his abdomen was smashed into a pulp. His internal organs spilled out. Even a overgod powerhouse would find it difficult to endure such serious injuries. Sizzle! Blood qi surged around Ji Shishing's wounds, and they healed at an astonishing speed. Swoosh! Although Su Fang unleashed his heavenly Tao Dharma power without holding back, it did not consume much of his yin-yang world's power. He unleashed swoosh! Swoosh! Coupled with the world's divine might, a world formed by blood water and a blood dome rapidly formed. Amidst the reincarnation divine might, Ji Shishing's blood qi and cultivation base were wildly devoured. Then, after another round of reincarnation, they became a part of Su Fang. Su Fang, I'll pay you back tenfold for what you did to me today. Ji Shishing roared furiously. He immediately abandoned his physical body, and his yang spirit broke free. In a flash, he was about to leap out of Su Fang's world's shackles and escape into nothingness. There's no future. Su Fang's voice, which was filled with murderous intent, reverberated in the world. A soundless thunder that could obliterate fate rang out in the unseen world, enveloping Ji Shishing's yang spirit. Swoosh! Swoosh! Ji Shishing's yang spirit immediately collapsed. His primordial spirit and consciousness were completely obliterated, leaving no trace behind. Destiny's thunder. It had been a long time since he had unleashed Destiny's thunder, but that did not mean that its power was inferior to other divine abilities. Restraining fate and obliterating everything related to fate and karma was the overbearing aspect of Destiny's thunder. In order to obliterate Ji Shishing's yang spirit, Su Fang did not need to activate the full power of Destiny's thunder at all. The blood water swirled and swept half of Ji Shishing's corpse into it. A middle-rank lord-level powerhouse's physical body was incomparably powerful. The blood water could not devour it in a short period of time. Su Fang sealed half of the corpse. He would deal with it slowly when he had the time. He had just advanced, so he could use this half of Ji Shishing's corpse to cultivate and reach the normal state of level 6 Tao integration as soon as possible. Although there's only half of Ji Shishing's corpse, the life essence it contains is more than 10 times more abundant than the frost plant. If I devour it completely, I'll definitely reach peak level 6 Tao integration. However, before that, I'll have to get rid of the 2 ants outside. Su Fang consolidated his physical body again, put away his world, and headed straight out of the chaos zone. Outside the Chaos Zone, the G People's Powerhouse and the Demon Dao Powerhouse were guarding outside. Suddenly, they sensed that there was no movement inside. The G People's Powerhouse said smugly, "Our peerless powerhouse has personally taken action. How can Su Fong not surrender?" The Demon Dao Powerhouse sneered disdainfully. "Even Lord Yuan Fu can't do anything to Su Fong, let alone Ji Shisheng." Perhaps, whoosh, QL11 Su Fong flew across the sky. The G People's Powerhouse and the Demon Dao Powerhouse instantly turned into two pieces of wood. They had never expected that Su Fong would be the one to walk out of the Chaos Zone in the end. Moreover, it had happened in such a short time. Su Fong must be planning to escape. Stop him. We only need to stop him for a moment. Lord Ji Shisheng can catch up and suppress him. The Ji People's Powerhouse thought that Su Fong was being chased by Ji Shisheng. He immediately charged toward Su Fong and activated his divine weapon in an attempt to stop Su Fong. However, the Demon Dao Powerhouse realized that the situation was not good. He turned around and fled. Su Fong reached out and grabbed the air. He erupted with the supreme power of the Purple Chi Dharma Spirit controlling the magic weapon. He directly grabbed the Ji People's divine weapon in his hand. Using the Purple Chi Dharma Spirit and the power of the Yin-Yang world, he directly crushed the light of the magic weapon and sealed it. Then, he stored it into the Purple Chi space in his body and handed it over to the Purple Chi Dharma Spirit to deal with. The Ji People's Powerhouse was shocked and stunned. In the time it took for a spark to fly off a flint, Su Fong used the Burning Heaven Eye. Two streams of fire shot out from his eyes, condensing into a line of fire that landed on the Ji clan expert's body. With a boom, the expert was set ablaze. Amidst the shrill screams, the Ji People's Powerhouse turned into a pile of ashes under the domineering power of the Nine-Yang Divine Flame. This Ji People's Powerhouse's cultivation base had reached the fifth heaven of the Tao integration stage. He would be a peerless powerhouse no matter where he was in the universe. He was also considered one of the few powerhouses among the Ji people. However, with Su Fong's current strength, dealing with a mid-stage Tao integration powerhouse was a piece of cake. It was as easy as a lord killing a Tao integration cultivator. Su Fong was about to charge toward the Demon Dao Powerhouse when a sinister aura suddenly descended. Then, a figure rapidly condensed in front of him and turned into a handsome and sinister cultivator. Su Fong looked panicked. He turned around and retreated into the Chaos Zone. He looked like he was running away. Yuan Fu's eyes were filled with shock. He asked the Demon Dao Powerhouse and then sensed him. He sensed that Ji Shisheng's aura had completely disappeared from the Sin Garden space. It was obvious that he had died. Yuan Fu could not help but suck in a breath of cold air. Su Fong already has the ability to kill a middle-rank lord. Although he might not be a match for me, he has enough ability to protect himself. Moreover, he was able to survive in the Chaos Zone. Clearly, he has extraordinary divine abilities or Dharma treasures. However, he pretended to be terrified. He clearly wants to lure me into the Chaos Zone and then kill me. Yuan Fu speculated. Then, he looked smug. I'm not a fool. Why would I fall for it so easily? The Demon Dao Powerhouse flew over. My lord, what do we do next? Let's go. We're leaving the Sin Garden. Then Su Fong. Don't we want the Prison Suppression Codex? Su Fong's strength has far exceeded our initial estimation. It's almost impossible to kill him. As for the Prison Suppression Codex, I'm determined to get it. I'll wait for the humans to fight to the death. Then I'll reap the benefits. Chapter 2289. Seeing that Yuan Fu was not chasing after him, Su Fong carefully sensed and confirmed that Yuan Fu had left. He immediately heaved a sigh of relief. It turned out that he had purposely pretended to be terrified in order to mislead Yuan Fu into thinking that Su Fong was going to lure him into the chaotic region and kill him in the same way as Ji Shisheng. In fact, Su Fang had just broken through and had not reached the normal height of the sixth heaven of the Tao integration realm. Killing Ji Shisheng and another Ji people expert had already consumed a lot of his energy. If Yuan Fu chased after him, then with Su Fang's current state, it was practically impossible for him to kill Yuan Fu. It was even to the extent that he might exhaust himself too much, causing his newly advanced cultivation to become unstable and even fall to the fifth heavenly layer. Therefore, Su Fang also took a big risk. As he expected, although the demon race was vicious and evil, they were also paranoid because they lived in the world of darkness. Yuan Fu was so scared that he did not dare to enter the chaotic region. I can finally focus on collecting the rainbow stone lotus. Su Fang looked at the rainbow stone lotus again, and his eyes became hale and hearty again. The rainbow stone lotus seemed to have predicted the arrival of doomsday and could not help but tremble. Next, Su Fang continued to take out the origin sacred mirror. After activating it, he let a yang spirit control the ancient mirror to continuously shoot out red light, which turned into 9 yang true fire to burn. The rainbow stone lotus had fused with Sin Garden. Even if a venerable emperor expert came, it would be difficult to collect it easily. A Lord God expert would not be able to do anything to it. Unfortunately, it could not move and could only resist passively. It absorbed the aura of the plant spirit treasures in Sin Garden to resist the power of the origin sacred mirror. Su Fang sat down cross-legged not far away and continued to devour the remaining spiritual beings formed by the divine dragon. He wanted to reach the sixth heaven of the Tao integration realm as soon as possible. During the time when Su Fang killed Ji Shisheng, the rainbow stone lotus also stopped absorbing the plant spirit treasures. Luo Xingtian, who had been unwilling to give up, was surprised and delighted when he woke up and found that the aura of the Tree of Stars was no longer flowing away. The heavens did not destroy my Luo Xingtian. The supreme spiritual being that my ancestors had painstakingly cultivated belongs to my Luo Xingtian after all. What happened earlier was definitely the ancestors' way of testing me. How could such a supreme treasure be easily obtained? Naturally, one would have to go through a lot of trouble. I was a little too impatient. Luo Xingtian felt that he had figured it out and was overjoyed. He immediately took out his storage ring and took out a ball of xianguang. Sealed within the xianguang was a drop of fresh blood. It was like a living creature that was constantly surging. Inside the blood, there was a faint starlight, and a figure could be vaguely seen sitting cross-legged in the starlight. Even though the ethereal silhouette was sealed and not a single trace of its aura leaked out, it still gave off a feeling of boundless vastness. This drop of blood is the blood essence of my clan's Emperor Realm Master. Normally, I would never use it unless it was a critical moment. At this moment, I can't care about anything else. For the sake of my future achievements, consuming this drop of blood essence is worth it. Luo Xingtian showed a painful expression. Finally, he gritted his teeth and opened his mouth to suck the xian guang into his stomach along with the blood. In just 5 short breaths, Luo Xingtian's dispirited aura rapidly rose and his skin quickly became as white and tender as a baby. Finally, Luo Xingtian's aura surpassed the ultimate God realm and rose steadily until it reached the height of the sixth heaven of the Tao fusing realm before stopping. With the help of a drop of the Luo clan's Emperor Realm Master's blood, Luo Xingtian's aura skyrocketed. Although he could not control the powerful force contained in the blood, he could use it to merge with the Tree of Stars. Then, Luo Xingtian frantically released his blood qi to merge with the Tree of Stars. Unexpectedly, after just over 2 hours, the aura of the Tree of Stars was rapidly drained again. Even Luo Xingtian's blood qi was also drained. Even if he had the cultivation of the sixth heaven of the Tao fusing realm, he could not stop it. Ancestor, how can you treat my Luo Xingtian like this? Luo Xingtian screamed in despair and spat out a mouthful of blood. Even his eyes, ears, and nose were bleeding. He fell to the ground and fainted again. In the depths of Sin Plant Garden, Diyuan sensed that the aura of the golden heart had stopped draining. However, Diyuan was still able to keep his composure and wait patiently. Something strange happened again. Diyuan showed a decisive expression. It seems that I am not fated with this treasure. I cannot force it. Then, Diyuan left without looking back and went straight to the outside of Sin Plant Garden. Years passed. Around 300 years, the various essences of the countless plant spirit treasures in Sin Plant Garden were gradually drained and finally disappeared from Sin Plant Garden. The light released by the rainbow stone lotus was also gradually dimming. It had no choice but to use its own energy to fight against the origin sacred mirror. Not far away, blood clouds were surging in the blood sky. The blood sea below was roaring. In the blood sea that was tens of thousands of feet in size, there was an astonishing flame of life burning. QL11 Su Fang's physical body that was sitting cross-legged in the middle of the blood sea suddenly opened its eyes and revealed a joyful smile. In these 300 years, he had finally merged with all the spiritual beings transformed from the divine dragon. Together with half of Ji Shisheng's corpse, not only had he recovered to his peak state, but his cultivation had also increased to the peak of the sixth heaven of the Tao-fusing realm. Such an astonishing speed of improvement was, of course, due to the spiritual beings and the corpses of Ji people powerhouses. Logically speaking, a spiritual being that was comparable to a middle-rank lord and half of a middle-rank lord's corpse was like a boundless essence. It was enough to allow an ordinary Tao-fusing true gods to improve by 2 or 3 small stages. However, Su Fang had only improved to the peak of the sixth heaven. The main reason was that Su Fang's heaven and earth Tao palace was simply too vast and astonishing. The difficulty of improving was 10 times that of an ordinary Tao fusing true gods. Of course, every time Su Fang improved by a small stage, his abilities would also increase by 10 times that of an ordinary true god. He stared at the rainbow stone lotus. Su Fang revealed a smile. It's time to collect this peerless treasure. He reverted to his original form and recalled the Yang spirit. Then, he activated the origin sacred mirror with all his might. The red light that shot out suddenly became several times more intense. The terrifying 9 Yang true fire completely engulfed the rainbow stone lotus. TSK, 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 TSK. The rainbow light released by the rainbow stone lotus shattered layer by layer. The 9 Yang true fire began to burn the rainbow stone lotus's main body. Some of the impurities were immediately purified and turned into ashes under the burning of the 9 Yang true fire. Another 3 years passed in this state. Splat! The rainbow stone lotus was burned into a lotus flower of nothingness. In the end, it was absorbed into the treasure mirror's internal space. I've finally obtained the rainbow stone lotus. Su Fang was so excited that he could not close his mouth. He was so excited that he almost danced with joy. The rainbow stone lotus contained the power of heavenly Tao order. It was a kind of heavenly Tao origin energy. What would it mean if he merged it? It would mean that Su Fang's internal world would possess the power of order. He would take another huge step forward in his cultivation of the supreme heavenly Tao. Moreover, Su Fang had a strong feeling that with the help of this rainbow stone lotus, he would definitely be able to form the 72nd Yang meridian in one go. As a result, he would be able to step into the 8th transformation of the 9 Yang meridian. The opportunity to form the 72nd Yang meridian has already been firmly grasped by me. However, the rainbow stone lotus still needs to be continuously fused with the ancient mirror to allow the rainbow stone lotus to possess the ancient mirror's aura. Only then will it be easier to fuse. Otherwise, even my Heaven-Earth Tao Palace will find it difficult to accommodate the astonishing energy within the rainbow stone lotus. I'll leave the rainbow stone lotus in the origin sacred mirror first. It's time to go to the main hall of the Heaven's Law Divine Prison to obtain the Prison Suppression Codex and Heaven's Supervisor Token. Su Fong took out a piece of human skin and activated the aura of the fruit of sin. The human skin quickly fused with him. In an instant, Su Fong transformed into a skinny, pale-faced youth. Even his aura rapidly changed. He cultivated the water Tao, and his cultivation level was only at the 4th firmament of the Tao integration realm. Then, he left the Chaos region and flew out of Sin Garden. Su Fong was surprised to discover that the spiritual beings he encountered in Sin Garden had all disappeared. Then, he was pleasantly surprised to discover that the shackles in Sin Garden had almost no effect on him. After pondering for a while, he understood the reason behind it. In the Chaos region, he had absorbed a large amount of heavenly Tao order power. His aura contained the power of order. Naturally, the Heaven's Law Divine Prison would not form any shackles on him. Having the Heavenly Tao Order power is another huge advantage I have in the Heaven's Law Divine Prison. I have more confidence in obtaining the Prison Suppression Codex and Heaven's Supervisor token. Su Fong took out the Prison Guard token that Luo Xingtian had given him before he entered Sin Garden. He smiled casually and kept the token in his body. He did not abandon it. Su Fong flew out of Sin Garden at a normal speed with his 4th firmament of the Tao integration realm cultivation level. It was already 5 years later. Along the way, he constantly sensed but did not discover any traces of Luo Xingtian, the Ji people, or the demon race experts. Unexpectedly, just as he flew out of Sin Garden, Luo Xingtian's thunderous voice sounded. "Who are you? How dare you enter Sin Garden to search for treasures?" It turned out that after Luo Xingtian woke up, he watched as the Tree of Stars disappeared before his eyes. He had no choice but to leave in despair. However, he was still unwilling to give up. He waited at the entrance of Sin Garden, hoping to find some clues. In the end, he bumped into Su Fong here. Su Fong replied domineeringly, "When did this garden become your home? You can go in to search for treasures, why can't I?" Sensing Su Fong's aura, Luo Xingtian became fearful and snorted. "Report your name. One of my subordinates was killed. I suspect you are the culprit. I'm young Master Zhuo Lang from the Zhuo Lang Divine Realm. How dare you, a mere godly venerable ant, interrogate me?" Cram. Su Fong swung his sleeves, rolling out a vast divine power that shook Luo Xingtian to the side. Then, he slowly flew into the depths of the Heaven's Law Divine Prison. Luo Xingtian looked at Su Fong's back in confusion. At this moment, Diyuan also followed him out of Sin Garden. Luo Xingtian asked tentatively, "Young Master Diyuan, did you find anything in Sin Garden?" "However much you found, I also found the same amount." "Humph." Diyuan's aura was weak. He snorted coldly and went straight to the main palace of the Heaven's Law Divine Prison. "Young Master Diyuan, I returned empty-handed in Sin Garden and wasted time. I'm sure young Master Diyuan didn't find anything. Why don't you and I work together in the main palace of the Heaven Ruin Temple?" Chapter 2290. Su Fong thought that he would encounter a lot of trouble when he headed to the main hall. After all, this was the divine prison of law. The deeper he went, the more powerful the barriers and puppets would be. Who knew, along the way, he saw a mess. Large areas of buildings had collapsed, and all kinds of barriers and restrictions were broken. Broken puppets and the corpses of cultivators could be seen everywhere. Su Fong was shocked to find that among the broken puppets, there were not only godly venerable or Tao integration stage prison guards, but there were also bull-headed barbarians whose strength was comparable to overgods. There were also puppets that were even more powerful than bull-headed barbarians. There were also many cultivator corpses. Some of them were obviously not the first batch of experts who entered the divine prison of law. It was obvious that a large number of experts had entered the divine prison of law during the years in Sin Botany Garden. The divine light wrapped around a white-robed man among the corpses. Su Fong raised his eyebrows. It turned out that the cultivator who was killed by the puppet was one of his guards in the Saint Temple. Su Fang thought to himself, it seems that the experts guarding outside the divine prison of law, including Tsang Yanhai and my guards, have all entered the divine prison of law. Buzz, a rune talisman in his body stirred. As soon as he took it out, Tsang Yanhai's anxious voice sounded from the rune talisman, Holy Son Su Fang, where are you? Su Fang replied, I'm fine. Why are you here? Holy Son, you're fine. Tsang Yanhai's surprised voice sounded again, Holy Son, you don't know yet, right? The Heaven Ruin Temple is from the divine prison of law of the celestial worthy mountain. It has alarmed many experts, and even attracted the attention of venerable sovereigns. I know a little about the divine prison of law, Su Fang frowned. Did any venerable sovereigns enter the divine prison of law? No, they didn't. In the divine prison of law, the strength of true gods is greatly suppressed. It's the same for venerable sovereigns. Besides, the divine prison of law has great implications. Venerable sovereigns don't dare to act rashly. Who are the experts that entered the divine prison of law? Luo Yunxin from the Luo clan, the Grand Elder from the Punishment Palace, a peerless expert from the Yi clan, the second patriarch of the Ji people, and the peerless expert from the Pure Land in the far west of the divine realm, the Buddha of creation. Even the weakest among them is an upper-rank chief god. So many masters. Su Fang snorted. Then, won't this trial in the Heavenly Ruins Temple be in vain? That's not necessarily the case. Right now, those supreme experts are all blocked outside the main hall of the divine prison of Heaven's law. They're arguing with each other, and they're currently discussing how to enter the main hall. So that's how it is. I will be there soon. Be careful, Holy Son of Su Fang. Although the barriers, restrictions, and puppets to enter the main palace have been destroyed by peerless masters, before entering the main palace, you have to pass through a dangerous place called the Maze Square. You have to be especially careful. Previously, even the hunchbacked master from Sanskrit was seriously injured when he passed through there. I'll remember it. Su Fang put away the rune talisman and sped up, rushing towards the depths of the divine prison of law. About 10 days later, a space filled with black clouds and mist blocked his path. The dark clouds and mist emitted a gloomy aura, giving off an extremely dangerous feeling. Moreover, the clouds and mist had a strange power that could make one's primordial spirit and Tao heart lose their minds. Once one entered, one would unknowingly be lost within. Thump, thump, thump. A series of extremely heavy footsteps came from the clouds and mist. It felt as if the entire divine prison of law was trembling. As the clouds and mist churned, a bronze puppet that was hundreds of feet tall could be seen striding through the clouds and mist. It emitted a terrifying murderous aura and a sharp aura that set off air waves, causing the clouds and mist to surge. In its hand, it held a huge mace that flashed with black lightning. Su Fang shuddered at the sight of it. This bronze puppet's strength was no weaker than Ji Zixing and that demon master. Moreover, it controlled the power of the divine prison of Heaven's law, and its strength was even at the terrifying peak of the over-god realm. Only sovereigns could suppress it. In the clouds and mist, one could see many cultivators, big goblin puppets, and tall deity statues patrolling back and forth. Bursts of murderous aura filled the sky. This is probably the maze square that Tsang Yanhai mentioned. Su Fang was extremely shocked. After circling around the periphery of the clouds and mist, he found that this area was boundless and surrounded the main palace. If he wanted to enter the main palace, he had to pass through the clouds and mist. Young Master Turbid Wave, aren't you very arrogant? Why don't you dare to enter? Luo Xingtian's mocking voice came from behind. Su Fang snorted coldly and didn't say anything. A frog at the bottom of a well. Luo Xingtian snorted contemptuously. Then he said to Di Yuan, Young Master Di Yuan, do you need me to lend you a hand? Di Yuan said indifferently, No need. Then this young master will not decline and will take the first step. Luo Xingtian walked into the mist with his head held high. Whoosh! QL11 Luo Xingtian took out the prison guarding general's token and released his blood qi at the same time. He had merged with a drop of the Luo clan's sovereign emperor's blood in Sin Garden. Although he had lost a lot of it to merge with the Tree of Stars, he still had most of it left. The ancestor of the Luo clan was the supreme expert who guarded the divine prison of law. The blood of his descendants had a certain ability to restrain all the power of the divine prison of law. At this time, Luo Xingtian had activated the blood qi of the Luo clan's sovereign emperor. The clouds and mist within 100 feet of him immediately rolled and automatically opened up a path for him. Those divine prison puppets and prison guards sensed the aura of the Luo clan's ancestor in the blood qi and all bowed. Even the extremely powerful bronze puppet lowered its huge head. Luo Xingtian showed a smug look and walked arrogantly into the depths of the maze square. Di Yuan raised his eyebrows and showed a trace of hesitation in his eyes. In the end, he made a decisive decision and rolled out a golden Xian Guang with his right hand. The Xian Guang flashed and a 3-foot-long golden Xian Guang appeared. Huang is identical to Imperial Decree diluted. The golden Xian Guang was densely covered with mysterious words and released a protective divine aura that shrouded Di Yuan. The aura of the golden Xian Guang contained a supreme divine aura that could control heaven and earth. It actually dispersed the surrounding mist within 1,000 feet radius. Swoosh! Swoosh! Those powerful prison guards and puppets all knelt on one knee. The bronze puppet also knelt on the ground with a bang. The mace in its hand smashed on the ground, causing the earth to shake. Luo Xingtian, who was in front, showed jealousy in his eyes when he saw this scene. "You're just relying on the supreme treasure of the imperial people. One is relying on the blood qi of the ancient divine clan, and the other is relying on the supreme divine weapon. As for me, I can only rely on myself." Su Fang showed a domineering smile and strode into the clouds and mist. "You're courting death. Even if you don't lose your will and Dao heart, you'll still be suppressed by those prison guards and puppets. You're courting death." Luo Xingtian sneered disdainfully and looked at Su Fang as if he was looking at a dead man. Di Yuan turned his head to look at Su Fang and smiled casually. "Idiot." Su Fang walked step by step into the Zue Square. Whoosh! The clouds and mist rolled. The invisible power of the primordial spirit that lost its consciousness swept toward Su Fang like a tide. Boom! 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 The incomparably powerful bronze puppet and hundreds of prison guards and puppets charged toward Su Fang. Su Fang projected the power of the yin-yang world to the outside world. The aura of the fruit of sin and the power of the heavenly Tao covered an area of 10,000 feet. In an instant, the clouds and mist became quiet, and the tide-like power of the primordial spirit attack instantly calmed down. Boom! 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 Under Su Fang's divine aura, the prison guards and puppets all knelt on the ground in unison. Their bodies trembled uncontrollably, and they appeared to be extremely respectful and even fearful. The bronze puppet also knelt on the ground with its upper body on the ground. It was actually worshipping Su Fang. Luo Xingtian and Di Yuan, one with the bloodline aura of the Luo clan elite, and the other with the treasures of the imperial people, made these puppets respect and fear them. However, what they respected and feared was not the puppets themselves, but the powerful beings behind them. Su Fang had the power of the heavenly Tao order, which was all of his own power. It represented the supreme heavenly Tao, and these puppets instinctively respected and feared him. This was the difference between Su Fang, Luo Xingtian, and Di Yuan. How is this possible? Who is this young Master Zhuolong? He actually has the supreme power to make the divine prison of law puppets submit to him. When Luo Xingtian and Di Yuan saw this scene, they were both surprised and shocked. They looked at Su Fang in disbelief. The powerful bronze puppet strode in front of Su Fang and opened a path for Su Fang. Su Fang caught up with them step by step in front of their incredulous eyes. The two of them had no choice but to move aside. Otherwise, they would be trampled into meat paste by the terrifying bronze puppet. I'm Diyuan. Diyuan cupped his fist. Obviously, he wanted to be on good terms with Su Fang. Luo Xingtian also cupped his fist. Young Master Zhuolong, I didn't expect you to be so extraordinary. I'm Luo Xingtian, from the Luo clan in the ancient god realm. If there's a chance, let's get to know each other better. Su Fang smiled casually. Without saying a word, he calmly passed the two of them and went straight to the depths of the maze square. Diyuan smiled embarrassedly and showed a displeased look. Arrogant fool who doesn't know the immensity of heaven and earth. You'll get it later. Luo Xingtian snorted coldly. His heart was filled with jealousy. However, when he saw the bronze puppet, his eyes were filled with fear. About 10 days later, Su Fang finally walked out of the maze square. The bronze puppet bowed to Su Fang and then disappeared in the thick fog. As soon as Su Fang walked out of the fog, he immediately felt a cold and solemn aura. The coldness that seeped into his bones made him tremble involuntarily. He looked over. He saw a majestic and magnificent huge palace standing in front of him. The palace was mainly black in color. It was gloomy and had a solemn aura. Every brick and tile gave Su Fang a feeling of strict law and binding heaven and earth. Su Fang's heart skipped a beat. This is the main palace of the divine prison of law. What a terrifying palace! Chapter 2291. The main hall of the divine prison of law was surrounded by an extremely powerful barrier. Su Fang estimated that even venerable sovereigns would have to pay a heavy price if they wanted to force their way in. They might even be suppressed by the divine prison of law. After all, the divine prison of law represented the order of the heavenly Tao. Although venerable sovereigns were extremely powerful, they had not yet reached the point where they could transcend heaven and earth, so they were still bound by the order of the heavenly Tao. From the square below, there were steps leading to the main hall's door. The only way to enter the main hall was through the steps and the door. Su Fang counted a total of 999 steps. These steps looked like they were piled up from ordinary black rocks, but they actually concealed extremely powerful formations. Each step was a formation. Su Fang unleashed his great perfection ability and his all-seeing eye. He could see that each step was shrouded in starlight, forming an astonishing shackle. In the square below the steps, thousands of cultivators sat cross-legged. The Tao-fusing protectors from Grey Flame Sea and the Sanctum of Sages were also among them. They stood out among the crowd. On their way here, at least half of the people had died. It seemed that the news of the divine prison of law had attracted many experts. Su Fang's divine light swept out and saw everyone's faces. He could not help but be shocked when he saw those peerless experts. There was a skinny old man whose cultivation base surpassed Grey Flame Seas. He was definitely not an ordinary upper-rank lord. He was the Grand Elder of the Yuan Tiangong's Punishment Hall. The skinny old man in a starry robe was the Luo clan's Grand Elder, Luo Yunchen. There was also the Ji people's second patriarch, who looked like a 17 or 18-year-old youth but exuded an ancient aura. His face was gloomy, like a volcano that would erupt at any time. It was no wonder that the Ji people's experts who entered the divine prison of law had all died, including a middle-rank lord. The Ji people's second patriarch was naturally in a bad mood. There were also a few upper-rank lords. Although they looked unfamiliar, it was not difficult for Su Fang to guess who they were. It was a tall and mighty Buddhist elder with fist-sized prayer beads hanging in front of his chest. He sat there cross-legged like a huge mountain, giving off a ferocious and holy Buddhist aura. Su Fang felt that his cultivation was even stronger than Sangyan Hai's. Qian Gang stood respectfully beside the Buddhist sect's old man. It was obvious that this Buddhist sect's cultivator was the Buddha of Fortune from the divine world's western Pure Land. The other middle-aged man had a thin and frail figure. However, he had an incomparably sharp aura. He had an aura that could tear apart the heavens and the earth, as well as a terrifying aura that could destroy everything. Luoyang stood by his side. Clearly, this was a peerless expert from the Yi clan. In addition, there was another powerful expert beside Chu Bingyan. This was a black-robed old man whose cultivation was unfathomable. He seemed to be Chu Bingyan's senior. There was also a white-robed middle-aged man. Compared to the other peerless lords, this person's cultivation was very ordinary. He was just an ordinary lord. However, this person occupied the spot closest to the step. That was because he was from the supreme imperial people. Even the most ordinary member of the imperial people would be respected by any expert. There were more than 1,000 cultivators sitting cross-legged around these experts. They were all itinerant cultivators from various divine worlds. Each of them had an extraordinary cultivation base. However, there were no powerful experts among them. As soon as Su Fang appeared, he immediately attracted the attention of the crowd. Several powerful and imperious auras swept past his body. This was especially true for the Ji people's second patriarch. He looked at everyone as if they were the murderers of the Ji people's experts. However, he could sense that Su Fang's cultivation base was only at the fourth heaven of the Tao integration stage. Therefore, he ignored Su Fang. The hunchbacked expert from Sanskrit had a puzzled look in his eyes after his divine light swept past Su Fang. Clearly, he was suspicious of Su Fang. Su Fang sat cross-legged outside the crowd of itinerant cultivators. He had no intention of revealing his identity. Although Tsang Yanhai and many guards were present, the Luo clan, Ji people, Sanskrit, and Yi clan were all eyeing Su Fang covetously. Su Fang had no choice but to be careful. Moreover, his target was the prison suppressing codex and the Heaven Supervisor token in the main hall. It would be beneficial for him to hide in the dark now. Lord Tsang Yanhai, what's the situation now? Su Fang secretly transmitted his essence spirit to Tsang Yanhai. Tsang Yanhai replied, Saint Su Fang, you've already passed through Maze Square and arrived here. I understand now. Saint Su Fang is indeed unfathomable. Even I couldn't see through your disguise. Don't make a fuss. Of course I understand. The peerless experts from various forces finally came to an agreement under the strong suppression of the Punishment Hall's Grand Elder after some debate. Powerful lords who have surpassed the Tao integration realm are not allowed to enter the main hall of the divine prison of Heaven's Law. There are precious treasures hidden in the main hall of the divine prison of Heaven's Law. Why would those peerless experts agree? Saint, there's something you don't know. Listen to me. It turned out that the steps leading from the square to the main hall were called the Heavenly Law Path. There were shocking shackles. The stronger one was, the greater the shackles. Moreover, once one displayed strength that surpassed the Tao integration realm, it would trigger the Heavenly Law Palace's formation. Even upper-rank lords would find it difficult to withstand. Therefore, these lords gave up on entering the main hall of the divine prison of Heaven's Law and allowed the Tao integration cultivators from various forces to enter. Now, they could only wait for Di Yuan and Luo Xingtian to arrive. These Yuan Tiangong geniuses would be the first to pass the Heavenly Law Path and enter the main hall. Those itinerant cultivators without any backing could also take the Heavenly Law Path as long as they were strong enough. However, the Heavenly Law Path was extremely dangerous. Very few could reach the end and enter the main hall. After waiting for about 3 days, Di Yuan was the first to walk out of the fog, breaking free of the restraints of the maze square. With a sweep of divine light, he headed straight for the middle-aged man in white from the imperial people. Congratulations, Xiao Zun. You'll definitely reap a great harvest after entering Sin Garden. The middle-aged man in white from the imperial people transmitted his voice to Di Yuan. Di Yuan snorted. I failed on the verge of success. I gained nothing. The powerful man in white from the imperial people said in surprise, How can this be? Yi Luoyang, Chu Bingyan, and other Yuan Tiangong geniuses who entered Sin Garden by accident were lucky enough to obtain plant spirit treasures. Why did you return empty-handed, Shao Zun? Something happened in Sin Garden. Let's not talk about it. We, the Supreme Imperial People, have no lack of supreme spirit treasures. However, Shao Zun must obtain that important treasure in the main hall of the Divine Prison of Heaven's Law. If I can't obtain it, no one else can. Another 2 days passed. Luo Xingtian finally walked out of the fog and came to the square outside the main hall. Seeing Luo Xingtian's dispirited appearance, Luo Yunxian, the first elder of the Luo clan, immediately came to Luo Xingtian's side. What happened? Why are you like this? Luo Xingtian transmitted his thoughts and slowly told Luo Yunxian about the strange things that happened in Sin Garden. QL 11-inch useless person. The clan spent so much effort on you. That tree of stars was the hope of our clan's future, but you buried it. Stupid, really stupid. Luo Xingtian defended himself. First Elder, how can you blame me for this? Shut up. How dare you quibble? Luo Yunxian was so angry that his face was distorted. Then he said coldly, if you can't get the Prison Suppression Codex and the Heaven Supervisor token in the main hall and lose to Su Fang, even if the Yuan Tiangong doesn't punish you, the clan's strict rules will not forgive you. Yes. Luo Xingtian trembled. After searching for a while, Luo Xingtian didn't see Su Fang. He finally felt better. Even if I can't obtain the Prison Suppression Sutra and the Sky Supervisor token, Su Fang still can't beat me. Luo Yunxian snorted. How did the Luo clan nurture such a stupid person like you? Whether Su Fang is dead or alive, how big of an impact would it have on my Luo clan? The Prison Suppression Codex and the Heaven Supervisor token are the most important, especially the Heaven Supervisor token. If you can't get this supreme artifact, you won't be able to escape punishment. Luo Xingtian was filled with hatred, but he could only agree obediently. Luo Yunxian immediately suggested to the first elder of the punishment hall that the Yuan Tiangong geniuses should start the path of heaven and enter the main hall to search for treasures. Song Yanhai immediately objected. Su Fang is the saint, who has surpassed the Yuan Tiangong's 4 realms geniuses. Who dares to enter the main hall before he arrives? Luo Yunxian sneered. If he dies somewhere else in the Heaven's Law Divine Prison, no one can enter? The Yuan Tiangong first elder of the punishment hall said coldly, Patriarch Luo, be careful with your words. The saint of Su Fang is second only to the great god Di Zun. If you disrespect the saint again, don't blame the Yuan Tiangong's laws for being strict. Luo Yunxian snorted inexplicably and sat down with Luo Xingtian. They waited for another 10 years. Su Fang still didn't appear. However, some experts passed through the fog of the Sin Square and arrived outside the main hall. Su Fang still didn't appear, causing everyone to talk about it. Some people guessed that he was trapped somewhere in the Heaven's Law Divine Prison, or that he might have died long ago. The Yuan Tiangong geniuses all had different reactions. Di Yuan seemed very disappointed, while Luo Xingtian and Yi Luoyang were gloating. The first elder of the punishment hall said majestically, since the saint of Su Fang still hasn't appeared, I'm afraid something unexpected will happen if we wait any longer. Everyone, Yuan Tiangong geniuses, enter the main hall. Di Yuan and the other Yuan Tiangong geniuses stood up one after another. There were only a dozen Yuan Tiangong geniuses who came to the Heaven's Law Divine Prison to train. As the news that the Heaven Ruin Temple was the Heaven's Law Divine Prison spread, many more people came, but there were no Heaven Realm geniuses among them. I'll remind you first. Do what you can and don't lose your life. The first elder of the punishment hall waved his hand. Go! Swoosh! Swoosh! Led by the great god Di Zun, many Yuan Tiangong geniuses flew toward the Heaven's Law Divine Path. When they were about 100 feet away from the first step, Di Yuan changed to walking and walked up the steps step by step. Some geniuses couldn't wait and wanted to show off, so they directly flew toward the heaven's law divine path. Swoosh! Swoosh! The three leading geniuses had just flown to the top of the first step when they felt the starlight sweeping over and condensing into a starlight shackle around their necks.